The night before our wedding, my fiancé's bridesmaid accidentally added me to their group chat, where she wrote, "Don't worry, I'll still sneak away with my ex before the honeymoon." I just read in silence. The next morning, she found out why no groom showed up. It was 11 p.m. the night before my wedding. I should have been trying to get some sleep, maybe having a quiet drink with my brother. Instead, I was sitting on the edge of a bed in a fancy hotel suite, staring at my phone and watching my entire future burn to the ground in real time. The weirdest part? I didn't feel a thing. Let's start from the top. I'm Ben, 35. I own a catering company. I spend my life making other people's big days perfect. It's a stressful job, but I'm good at it. For the last 3 years, the big day I was planning was my own. My fiancée Olivia was the classic girl next door type. Sweet, beautiful, the kind of girl you bring home to meet your mom. At least that's who I thought she was. For the last year, though, there's been this weird undercurrent. His name is Alex. Her ex. The one that got away, or so the story went. She swore up and down they were ancient history, that he was a phase she was long over. But his name just kept popping up. I'm not a jealous guy, but I'm not stupid either. The way her eyes would light up when she talked about him, the way she'd get defensive if I asked about him, it was a red flag. About 6 months ago, I laid it out for her. I told her I couldn't spend my life with a woman who was still hung up on her ex. I told her it was disrespectful and that if she wasn't 100% in this with me, we needed to end it. She cried. She swore I was the only one she wanted. She promised she would never speak to him again. I believed her. I chose to believe her. So, back to the hotel. We had booked the whole floor for the wedding party. I was in my suite. She was down the hall with her bridesmaids. My phone buzzed. It was a notification that I had been added to a group chat. The chat was called Livy's Bride Tribe. I figured it was a mistake. One of her friends must have hit the wrong button. I was about to just leave the group when the messages started popping up, and I could see the entire chat history. My blood went cold. It was a transcript of my own execution. Her friends were asking her if she was nervous, if she was ready for this. Her maid of honor, a girl named Chloe, wrote, "Are you sure you're ready to be tied down to Mr. Safe and Stable for the rest of your life? Last chance to run for the hills." And then came the reply from Olivia. "My sweet, loving fiancé. Please. The wedding is a formality. The party is going to be epic, and he's paying for all of it, Lull. Don't worry, I'll still sneak away with Alex for a real celebration before the honeymoon." I just stared at that message. He's paying for all of it, Lull. A real celebration. Another bridesmaid chimed in, "Just for one night." Olivia's reply came a second later. "One night for now. He's so clueless, I can do it whenever I want. Ben will never know. He's too in love with me to ever question anything." I just sat there, reading it over and over. I wasn't angry. I wasn't hurt. It was like a switch flipped in my head. All the little doubts, all the red flags, they all snapped into focus. This wasn't a last-minute case of cold feet. This was a calculated, long-term plan. I wasn't her partner. I was her bank, her provider. The boring, stable idiot who was funding her life while she planned secret nights with her ex. I didn't leave the group chat. I didn't type a single word. I just put my phone on silent, took a screenshot of the entire conversation, and started making a new plan. My wedding was still happening tomorrow. She was going to get the show of a lifetime, but she wasn't going to be the star. She was going to be the punchline. Update 1. The next morning, I woke up with a strange sense of calm. I knew exactly what I had to do. My brother, who was my best man, came into my suite around 8 a.m. He could tell something was off. "You okay, man?" he asked. "You look weirdly calm." "I'm better than okay," I said, and I showed him the screenshots. He read them, his face getting darker with every word. When he was done, he just looked at me. "We're calling this off, right?" "Nope," I said, a slow smile spreading across my face. "We're going through with it, but we're making a few changes to the program. I need your help." My plan was simple, and it was brutal. Olivia wanted a movie. I was going to give her a thriller with a twist ending she'd never see coming. First, I needed to get the ex, Alex, to the wedding. I used a burner phone app to send him a text, spoofing Olivia's number. It read, "I can't do it, Alex. I'm making a huge mistake. I'm at the chapel. Please, just come. I'll leave with you. I love you." It was cheesy, but it was exactly the kind of thing he'd fall for. Next, I called the AV company I had hired for the reception. I have connections in the event industry, and I knew the owner. I told him I had a last-minute surprise for the bride. A special slideshow. I told him I'd be sending over the file and that he was to play it on the big projector screen behind the altar during the groom's speech, no questions asked. He was a friend. He just said, "You got it, Ben." Then I got ready. I put on my tux. I went down and took pictures with my groomsmen. I greeted the guests as they arrived. I was the perfect happy groom. Olivia was still in her suite, completely oblivious, probably texting her bridesmaids about the real celebration to come. The ceremony began. I stood at the altar, watching as she walked down the aisle. She looked beautiful. A perfect fraud. She took my hand, her eyes sparkling. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. The officiant went through his speech. Then it was time for the vows. He turned to me. "Do you, Ben, take Olivia to be your lawfully wedded wife?" I took a deep breath. I looked at Olivia, at her hopeful, smiling face. I looked out at our friends and family. Then I looked at the back of the chapel, where a confused-looking guy in a leather jacket had just slipped in. Alex had arrived. I turned back to the officiant. "No," I said, my voice clear and steady. "I don't." A gasp rippled through the crowd. Olivia's smile vanished, replaced by a look of pure shock. "In fact," I continued, taking the officiant's microphone, "I think there are a few things everyone here should know." I pointed to the back of the chapel. "Alex, glad you could make it. Olivia will be thrilled to see you." All heads turned. Alex looked like he wanted to die. "You see, folks," I said, my voice booming through the speakers, "I was accidentally added to the bridal party's group chat last night, and it was very, very educational. I learned that my fiancée, the woman standing before you, was planning on having a real celebration with her ex-boyfriend, Alex, before our honeymoon. I also learned that I am so clueless that she could do it whenever she wanted, and I would never know." I looked at her bridesmaids, who were all staring at the floor. "But you know, I'm a visual learner, so I thought it would be best to just show you all what I'm talking about." I nodded to the AV booth. The massive screen behind us, which had been displaying a tasteful floral arrangement, flickered to life, and there it was, in giant, high-definition letters for everyone to see. The entire screenshot of their group chat. Her profile picture. Her words. "He's paying for all of it, Lull. I'll still sneak away with Alex." The silence in the chapel was absolute. You could have heard a pin drop, then came the gasps. I saw Olivia's father, a big intimidating man, rise to his feet, his face purple with rage. I looked at Olivia. Her face was a mess of tears and horror. Her perfect movie had just turned into a nightmare. "So the wedding is off," I announced, "but the $150,000 party is very much on. Please everyone, enjoy the food, the open bar, and the band. I'd like to dedicate the first song to my ex-fiancée. It's called Liar." I dropped the mic, turned around, and walked down the aisle past the stunned faces of our guests. My brother and my groomsmen fell in behind me. As I walked out of that chapel, I heard the first notes of the song start to play. The sound of my freedom. Update 2. The scene I left behind in that chapel was, by all accounts, a complete meltdown. Alex, the ex, apparently bolted the second everyone's attention was on the screen. Smart move. Olivia's father started screaming, not at me, but at her. The bridesmaids were crying. It was chaos. I didn't see any of it. I went straight to the reception hall, which was in another part of the estate. My catering staff, who I had given a heads up to that morning, were ready. They opened the bar, started passing appetizers, and the band, a group of guys I've worked with for years, launched into a set of upbeat party music. My friends and family started trickling in a few minutes later, looking shell-shocked but also impressed. My dad gave me a hug that almost broke my ribs. "That's my boy," was all he said. About 30 minutes into my freedom party, the doors to the reception hall burst open. It was Olivia, her father, and her mother. She had taken off her veil and her makeup was a disaster. Her father looked like he wanted to murder someone. "You," he bellowed, pointing at me. "You have humiliated my daughter. You have humiliated my family. I will sue you for everything you have." I just took a sip of my whiskey. "No, you won't," I said calmly. Because if you do, the first thing my lawyer will do is enter into evidence a sworn testimony from every single one of those bridesmaids about the conversation they had last night. Not to mention the screenshots, which I have already sent to him. Your daughter wasn't humiliated, she was exposed. There's a difference. Her mother started in on me then. How could you be so cruel, Ben? After everything we've done for you? Everything you've done for me? I laughed. I paid for this. I paid for every flower, every chair, every drop of champagne you're about to drink. This entire event was funded by the clueless guy your daughter was planning to cheat on. So please, enjoy the party. Olivia finally found her voice. It was a mistake, Ben, she cried. I was just scared. I didn't mean it. You meant every word, I said, my voice turning to ice. And the lull at the end of "he's paying for all of it" really sealed the deal. You didn't make a mistake. You made a plan. And your plan failed. Now if you'll excuse me, I have about 300 guests who are here to celebrate my narrow escape. Security will see you out. I had hired extra security for the event, another part of my contingency plan. 2 very large men politely but firmly escorted the 3 of them out of the reception hall. The party raged on. It was the best and most expensive breakup party in history. We ate the fancy food, we drank the top-shelf liquor, and we danced until 2 in the morning. The next day, the real cleanup began. I had my lawyer send a formal letter to Olivia and her family. It included a detailed invoice for her half of all the non-refundable costs associated with the wedding, which came to just over $75,000. It also informed her that I had canceled our 5-star, 3-week honeymoon to Bali, and that she was responsible for half of the substantial cancellation fee. The letter ended by stating that if she refused to pay, I would pursue the matter in civil court, where the evidence of her fraudulent intent to enter into the marriage would be made public. Her father paid the bill a week later. There was no note. Final update: it's been 6 months. The dust from the explosion has finally settled. The story of our wedding became the stuff of legend in our town. Everyone has a version of it, but the screenshots of that group chat, which inevitably leaked, meant the truth was never in doubt. Olivia's life, from what I hear, is a mess. Her reputation is in the toilet. Her family, deeply embarrassed, has apparently put her on a very short leash. She had to get a real job. The life of leisure that she thought she had secured with me is gone. Her friends, the bridesmaids who so eagerly participated in her deceit, also faced their own fallout. Chloe, the maid of honor, was actually dumped by her own fiancé after he heard what had happened. Apparently, he decided he didn't want to marry a woman whose idea of friendship was to encourage betrayal. I saw Olivia once. It was a few weeks ago at a coffee shop. She was alone, just staring into her cup. She looked small. The bright, confident, life-of-the-party persona was gone. She looked up and saw me. There was a flicker of panic in her eyes, and then she just looked away, her face burning with what I hope was shame. I just got my coffee and left. The ultimate revenge wasn't the public humiliation, it wasn't the money, it was simply showing her and everyone else the truth. She had built her life on a foundation of lies and manipulation, and all I did was knock out the main support beam. The rest of it just came crashing down on its own. I'm dating again. Someone real. Someone who laughs with me, not at me. Someone who understands that a relationship is a partnership, not a heist. Olivia wanted a movie. She wanted to be the romantic heroine, torn between 2 loves, but she misread the script. She wasn't the heroine. She was the villain. And in my movie, the villain doesn't get a happy ending. She just gets what she deserves. My girlfriend said, "You're too clingy, I need to feel single again." I said, "Say no more." Then I actually let her feel single by removing her from my phone plan and canceling her credit cards. Reality hit when her phone got disconnected. I, 26 male, got the most ridiculous text from my girlfriend Meredith, 24, last Monday while I was at work. We'd been together for 3 years, living together for 1. "Derek, we need to talk. You're suffocating me. I love you, but I need to feel single again. Not be single, just feel single. You're too clingy, and it's making me resent you. I'm staying with Tessa for a while. Don't text me constantly. Give me the freedom I need." I stared at my phone for a solid minute. Feel single? While being in a relationship? The mental gymnastics were Olympic level. Here's the thing. I'm not clingy. I I text her maybe twice during work. We have dinner together most nights. Normal couple stuff. Meanwhile, she's been going out with her girls 3 nights a week, coming home at 3 a.m. I never complained, never questioned it. But apparently, my existence in her life was too much. I texted back, say no more. Then I got to work. See, Meredith had this habit of forgetting who actually paid for things. Her phone, on my family plan. Her credit cards, authorized user, on mine because her credit was trash when we met. Netflix, Spotify, HBO Max, all mine. Within an hour, removed her line from my phone plan, effective immediately. Removed her as authorized user from my credit cards, changed all streaming passwords, canceled the gym membership I paid for, removed her from my AAA coverage. She wanted to feel single? Cool. Singles pay their own bills. The beauty of it all? She was at work when her phone got disconnected. No warning, just dead. Update 1, LMAO, the entitlement is unreal. So Tuesday morning, Meredith shows up at my apartment, still has a key while I'm getting ready for work. Hair a mess, makeup smeared, looking panicked. What did you do to my phone? Me, calmly tying my tie. Your phone? I don't have a phone in your name. You know what I mean, you cut off my service. Oh, you mean you lost access to my phone plan? Yeah, singles typically have their own phone plans. Her face went from red to purple. That's not what I meant and you know it. You said you wanted to feel single. Single people don't share phone plans with their boyfriends. I'm helping you achieve your goal. I need that phone for work, for emergencies. Verizon stores down the street. They have great single-person plans. Then she tried to buy coffee on her way to work Tuesday with the credit card. Declined. She called me from her work phone screaming, "You canceled my credit card too? Authorized user privilege revoked. Single people have their own credit. I have no money until Friday." Sounds like a single-person problem. She hung up on me. But the best part? Her best friend Tessa started texting me, trying to play mediator. Tessa, that was really petty, Derek. She just needed some breathing room. She's getting all the room she wants. You know she can't afford her own phone plan right now. Then maybe she should have thought about that before needing to feel single while keeping all the relationship benefits. You're being manipulative. I'm being single. She should try it. Then Wednesday evening, the real fireworks started. Meredith tried to use her gym membership. Denied. She actually had them call me from the front desk. Gym employee. Sir, there's a Meredith here saying there's been a mistake with her membership. No mistake. That membership was canceled. She's welcome to sign up for her own. I could hear her shrieking in the background about how I was financially abusing her. The gym employee sounded like they wanted to disappear. But here's where it gets good. Wednesday night, around 11 p.m., she tries to come home because Tessa's roommate was having people over. He still works, but I'd installed a door chain. Door opens 3 inches and stops. Derek, let me in. I live here. No, we lived here. Now I live here. You're staying with Tessa to feel single, remember? I just needed space, not to be homeless. You're not homeless. You're at Tessa's. Enjoy your single girl sleepover. Where's my stuff? In the spare room. You can arrange a time to get it. She basically had a meltdown in the hallway. Mrs. Peterson from 3B actually came out to see if everything was okay. Meredith tried to explain that her crazy boyfriend locked her out of her own apartment. Mrs. Peterson, absolute legend. Oh dear, but I thought you moved out? Derek told us you needed to be single again. The look on Meredith's face. Perfect. Update 2. The audacity keeps climbing, folks. Thursday was relatively quiet. Too quiet, should have known she was plotting. Friday morning, I get a call from my landlord. Meredith had called him crying, saying I illegally evicted her. Here's the thing though, she was never on the lease. She moved in with me. The lease is solely in my name. Landlord was confused but had to follow up. I explained the situation, showed him her text about needing to feel single and staying with Tessa. He actually laughed. So she moved out voluntarily? Yup. She's just mad I'm not subsidizing her single lifestyle. He said as long as there's no violence or actual illegal eviction, it's between us. Told me to document everything though. Already on it. But Friday afternoon is when Meredith went nuclear. She showed up at my workplace with her mom. Her mom, dude. They waited in the lobby until I came down for lunch. Ambush style. Her mom, Gloria, immediately starts, "Derek, what is this nonsense? You're acting like a child." "Hey Gloria, I'm respecting Meredith's wishes." Meredith, fake crying, "Mom, he's being cruel. He took everything away." "I didn't take anything. I stopped providing things that were mine." Gloria, "You're supposed to take care of her. She's your girlfriend." "Actually, she wanted to feel single. Singles take care of themselves." "That's not what she meant. She just wanted less pressure." "The pressure of what? Me existing, paying her bills, being her boyfriend?" "You text me all the time. Want to know where I am?" "Me. Pulling up our text history. I texted you twice yesterday before you wanted to be single. Have a good day and dinner at 7. Real controlling stuff." My coworker Roger walked by, saw the scene and goes, "Everything cool, Derek?" "Just explaining how single people pay their own bills." Roger, absolute Chad. "Oh right, like adults. Cool." Gloria was fuming, started raising her voice about how relationships require sacrifice and understanding. Security started walking over. "Me, I understand perfectly. She wants to be single. I'm helping. Now please leave before security escorts you out." Meredith tried one more manipulation. "If you ever loved me, you wouldn't do this. If you ever respected me, you wouldn't need to feel single while I pay for everything." They left, but not before Gloria said I'd regret treating her baby this way. Narrator, I would not regret it. Update 3. So the weekend was a shit show of epic proportions. Saturday morning, I'm at the grocery store, and I run into Meredith's friend group. They tried to stage what I can only describe as an intervention in the cereal aisle. "Tessa, Derek, we need to talk about Meredith." Her friend Ashley, "You're taking this too far." Her friend Brooke, "She's suffering." Me, grabbing my Lucky Charms, "She's single. Singles sometimes struggle." Character building. Ashley, "She had to borrow money from her mom for a phone. Congratulations to her for problem solving." Tessa, "She can't even watch Netflix. YouTube's free." They followed me around the store trying to guilt trip me. Talking about how Meredith was crying, couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, how she learned her lesson. Me? What lesson? She wanted to feel single. She's feeling it. This is what she requested. Brooke, "She didn't mean it like that." Then she should say what she means. But here's where it gets wild. Sunday night, around 10 p.m., Meredith shows up drunk, like wasted, with some guy I've never seen before, banging on my door. "Derek, open up. I want you to meet Nathan." I look through the peephole. She's hanging off this uncomfortable-looking dude. Through the door. "Hi, Nathan." "Bye, Nathan." "I'm seeing someone new." I upgraded. Nathan has his own business. Nathan, clearly confused. I thought you said you were single?" "I am single. Right, Derek?" "I'm single." "Yep, super single. Good luck with that, Nathan." "Wait, who are you?" "My ex who's being a baby about our break." "We didn't break up. You wanted to feel single? Different thing." "What the hell does that mean?" Poor Nathan started backing away as Meredith tried to explain her galaxy brain relationship philosophy. He literally said, "I'm too sober for this," and left. Just walked away while she was mid-sentence. She exploded, screaming about how I ruined her date, her life, everything. Threatening to call the cops, sue me, tell everyone I'm abusive. Me, "Please do. I have your text saying you want to feel single, documentation of you moving out, and security footage of you showing up drunk with another man. Good luck with that." She actually tried to kick my door, hurt her foot, hobbled away crying. Mrs. Peterson, the real MVP, stuck her head out. "Meredith, dear, singles usually don't assault their ex's doors." Monday, I get texts from a number I don't recognize. It's Meredith's dad, Robert. "Son, Gloria told me what's happening. This is between you kids, but maybe consider being the bigger person here." "Robert, I am being the bigger person. I respected her wishes without argument. You know that's not what she wanted. What she wanted was all the benefits of a relationship with none of the responsibilities while calling me clingy for expecting basic girlfriend behavior. I declined that arrangement. She's young, she made a mistake. And she's learning from it. That's growth." He actually sent back, "Fair enough." But Tuesday morning brought the ultimate entitlement play. Meredith had gotten a payday loan, insane interest rates, to get a new phone, and immediately started blasting on social media. Posted this whole sob story about financial abuse, manipulation, controlling behavior. Tagged me in everything. When someone shows you who they really are, believe them. I just wanted space to breathe, and Derek took away my ability to survive. This is what abusers do. They make you dependent, then punish you for having needs. The comments were mixed. Some people bought it. Others who knew us were like, "Didn't you move out though?" My response? Posted her original text. Full screenshot. No commentary. Just the text where she said I was clingy, needed to feel single, and was staying with Tessa. The backpedaling in her next post was hilarious. That's taken out of context. I was expressing needs in a relationship and he weaponized them. Someone commented, "What context makes I need to feel single different?" She deleted everything within an hour. Update 4: Peak entitlement reached, folks. This is endgame level audacity. Wednesday, Meredith's mom Gloria calls from Meredith's new phone. Speaker mode. Whole family meeting happening on their end. Gloria: "Derek, we've had a family discussion. Meredith is willing to come back." I actually laughed. "Come back? To what?" "To the relationship. She forgives you for overreacting." "She forgives me?" Meredith in the background. "I understand you were hurt, but..." "Stop. I wasn't hurt. I was obedient. You wanted single, you got single." Gloria: "She's explained what she meant. She just wanted more girls' nights. She had 3 nights a week already. She wanted to feel single." Those were her words. Meredith grabbed the phone. "I'm giving you one chance to fix this. Take me back, restore my phone, credit cards, everything, or we're done. We've been done since you moved to Tessa's to feel single. I mean done. As opposed to the living separately while you feel single done?" She screamed something incoherent and hung up. But Wednesday night/Thursday morning at 2 a.m., she hit a new low. She used the emergency key I'd forgotten she knew about, hidden in the fire extinguisher case in the hallway, to try to get in while I was sleeping. Alarm system went off. Didn't tell her I installed one. She's inside, alarm blaring, trying to disable it with the old code. I call 911 from my bedroom, saying there's an intruder. Cops show up. Find her in the living room, trying to explain she lives there. Cop: "ID shows a different address, ma'am." Tessa's address? She'd officially changed it for some reason. Meredith: "I used to live here. I'm getting my things." She moved out last week, demanded to feel single, now broke in at 2 a.m. I showed them her text, the documentation of her moving out. They asked if I wanted to press charges. Meredith went pale. "Derek, don't you dare." I considered it. Really did, but decided to be merciful. No charges if she leaves now and never comes back without written permission. Cops made her leave. Told her if she came back without permission, she'd be arrested for trespassing. She tried arguing, but they weren't having it. Thursday morning, today, I get a call from her work. They're asking for employment verification for an apartment application. HR: "We're calling to verify employment for Meredith regarding an apartment application." Interesting. She's actually getting her own place. Growing up. But then Tessa texts me, "You happy? She has to get a studio in a bad area because it's all she can afford. She'll probably get robbed or worse. She's a single adult making adult choices. You could have just talked to her." I did. She said I was clingy and moved out. You're impossible. I'm consistent. The best part? Mutual friend told me Meredith's been hitting up every mutual friend for money. For deposits, furniture, utilities setup. Playing the victim, saying I made her homeless. Most people are aware of the actual situation now thanks to my strategic screenshot. She even made a TikTok about recognizing financial abuse in relationships. It got roasted in the comments when someone linked my screenshot in response. She dirty deleted it within hours. Final update. It's been 2 weeks since the police incident and the karma train has fully arrived at the station. Meredith got her studio apartment. From what I hear, it's not actually that bad. She was being dramatic. But reality hit hard when she realized what being single actually costs. Phone plan, $95 a month. She got suckered into unnecessary add-ons. Credit card, denied everywhere due to trash credit. Utilities deposit, $500 no credit history as a utility customer. Internet, $80 per month. Streaming services, she's begging passwords off people. Gym, can't afford it. Groceries, ramen and cereal diet. Meanwhile, her mom Gloria called one more time trying to guilt me. She's struggling, Derek. Can't you at least help with the phone bill? That's what parents are for. I'm just the clingy ex-boyfriend, remember? But here's the beautiful karma. Remember Nathan, the guy she brought to my door? Turns out he owns a food truck, not exactly the business owner upgrade she was bragging about, and he wanted nothing to do with her after that weird night. But she kept hitting him up, getting increasingly desperate and clingy. The irony. He actually found me on Instagram and messaged me, "Bro, your ex is insane." She asked me to add her to my phone plan. We hung out once. But the best part? Last weekend, Meredith had to move into her new place. Posted all over social media asking for help moving. Radio silence. Even Tessa was busy. Her mom and dad had to rent a U-Haul and do it themselves. She posted this passive-aggressive story. Remember who shows up for you when you're down. Most people only care when you're beneficial to them. Someone commented, like when you only wanted your boyfriend for bills but needed to feel single? Deleted within minutes. Yesterday, I ran into her at Target. She was in the ramen aisle, basket full of the cheap stuff. Saw me, tried to duck away. Didn't work. Me, "Hey Meredith, how's single life?" "Fine." Clearly not fine. "Good, that's what you wanted." I made a mistake, okay? Is that what you want to hear? I don't want to hear anything. You made a choice. Adult choices have adult consequences. I just wanted some space. You got all the space, infinite space, your own apartment's worth of space. She started tearing up, "I miss us." There is no us, hasn't been since you needed to feel single. Can't we just talk about, no, singles don't get boyfriend privileges. That includes conversations about relationships that don't exist. I walked away. She texted me from her new number an hour later. That was cruel. Blocked. The mutual friend group is split. Some think I went too far. Others are team, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Tessa apparently got sick of Meredith within a week of her staying there. Ashley admitted Meredith had been talking to other guys for weeks before the "feel single" text, trying to monkey branch, but none of them wanted to seriously date her. Robert, her dad, ran into me at the gas station. We chatted briefly. He said, "She's learning a hard lesson about appreciation." Then he shook my head and said, "Maybe she needed this." Even her own dad gets it. Meredith's now working extra shifts to afford her single lifestyle. No more 3 nights a week party schedule. No more brunches on someone else's credit card. She's experiencing the full single experience she wanted so badly. Me? I'm great. Joined a climbing gym with the money I'm saving, started seeing someone new. Clara, who has her own career, apartment, and phone plan. She literally laughed when I told her this story and said, "Who the hell wants to feel single while in a relationship? That's just wanting to be single with benefits." Exactly. The revenge wasn't elaborate. It was just giving Meredith exactly what she asked for. The complete, unsubsidized single experience. No safety net, no boyfriend benefits, no financial cushion. She wanted to feel single while keeping all the perks of having a boyfriend. Instead, she got to feel what single actually means. Paying your own way, solving your own problems, and dealing with your own choices. Funny how feeling single isn't so appealing when it comes with single-person bills, huh? To everyone asking if I feel bad. Nah. She created this situation with her entitlement and game playing. I just refuse to be the sucker who funded her single fantasy. She's not homeless, not starving, not in danger. She's just experiencing life without a safety net she didn't appreciate. And honestly, maybe she'll come out of this as a better person who understands that relationships aren't about keeping one foot out the door while expecting full benefits. Or maybe she'll just find another sucker to pay for her single lifestyle. Either way, not my problem. I'm too busy living my best actually single life before Clara and I make things official. Because when I'm in a relationship, I'm in it. No feeling single bullshit. Peace out.
At family dinner, my sister mocked me. "Where's your husband and kids?" "Oh right, you don't have any." My parents laughed, so I said, "Where's your money?" "Oh right, I've been supporting you." Until today. The table went silent, and that was the night everything changed. Hi, my name is Olivia Hart, 31 years old, living in Seattle, Washington, and every day of mine begins like the ringing of a repetitive alarm clock. Waking up in my small apartment in Capitol Hill, drinking black coffee with no sugar, then rushing to catch the morning bus to the tech company where I work as a product manager. I never claimed to live a perfect life, but I am proud that I built a stable path with my own strength. I live below my means, rarely indulge in luxury shopping, and never spend recklessly. Even the apartment I rent is modest, just enough for me to call home. The reason is simple: most of my paycheck never stays long in my account. It quickly flows toward my family, the black hole. I have become so familiar with that I no longer question it. My mother, Evelyn, a retired nurse after an early heart surgery, still needs medications, checkups, and the constant costs that come with them, and I am always the one who pays. My father, Robert, once worked as a consultant, but contracts came and went, and during the lean months, I was the daughter wiring money to keep the suburban Tacoma house from the bank's watchful eye. And then there is Savannah, my younger sister, 28, youthful, beautiful, adored by the family, and also the one I have rescued countless times when she dropped out of school, fell behind on rent, or recklessly maxed out her credit cards. I never thought of myself as the one carrying the weight, but looking back, every scramble and transfer feels like a silent resume clearly stating my role in the family. The safety net. I am not wealthy, only comfortable enough if I did not have to share the burden. A steady salary in tech could allow me to travel, buy a small apartment, or at least save for the future. But I rarely did any of that. The trips I dreamed of, a summer in Italy, a week skiing in Colorado, were always canceled after a frantic phone call from my mother or a panicked message from Savannah. I kept telling myself this was what a daughter, what a sister should do. I silently sacrificed, tucking away my own desires into a locked drawer, and kept sending the money. That is why on that Sunday evening I still drove nearly an hour from Seattle back to the old house in Tacoma. Family dinner, a tradition my mother had kept for years, was usually nothing special. Roast chicken, mashed potatoes, sometimes a soup she was proud of. When I walked in, the house looked the same as always: the warm glow of yellow lights, the familiar hint of coffee in the air, and the slow murmur of a football game on the living room TV. Yet beneath that coziness, I could sense another layer, thin but tense, like a violin string pulled too tight, waiting for the lightest touch to snap. Savannah sat at the table, her blonde hair tied high, her bright eyes gleaming with confidence, while my parents murmured quietly to each other. I set my coat on the chair and smiled, though the smile felt strained. Over the years, I had begun to notice an undeniable divide: me, the daughter who quietly sacrificed, and Savannah, the daughter who was indulged and praised, as if the family's entire light shone only in her direction. I told myself I was not jealous, or at least I tried to, but deep down, the crack widened with every passing day. As I sat down, I listened to my mother talk about her week, about how Savannah had been invited to a fashion event in downtown Seattle, about how my father was still trying to make things work with his occasional consulting jobs. I nodded, added a few polite words. But in my mind, every bill, every transfer, every dollar of my savings swept away like wind kept flashing before me, haunting me like familiar ghosts. That dinner, outwardly warm and ordinary, carried inside it a weight so suffocating I could hardly breathe. Savannah swirled the glass of wine in her hand, the warm dining room light catching her eyes and making them glimmer with something mischievous. I had just lifted a spoonful of soup to my lips when she tilted her head, her mouth curling into that familiar half-smile that had irritated me since we were children. "So sis," Savannah drawled, feigning a gentle kind of concern, "where's your husband? Where are your kids?" "Oh, right. You don't have any." She let out a soft laugh, then casually sipped her wine as if she had just delivered a brilliant joke. My mother immediately joined in with a light laugh, loud enough for me to hear the contempt tucked beneath it. My father gave a quiet snort, his eyes glinting with agreement, while Savannah leaned back in her chair as though she had just scored a point in a game only she cared about. I sat there, the spoon still hovering midair, forcing my face to remain still. In that brief moment, memories crashed over me like a storm. All the times I had set aside my own needs to clean up my family's crises. I remembered the winter night my mother was rushed to the hospital with chest pains, how I missed the most important meeting of my career just to sign insurance papers and put down the surgical deposit. I remembered when my father fell behind on the mortgage and I emptied the savings I had set aside for my dream apartment, even though I myself was crammed into a tiny rental in Seattle with the rent climbing higher every year. I remembered when Savannah called me sobbing after being evicted from her downtown apartment, how I paid off all her debts and found her a new place to live. Every time, I had done it in silence, without complaint, telling myself it was the duty of a daughter, the responsibility of an older sister. And now, what was I given in return? A mocking remark laid bare in front of the whole family, turning my life into the punchline of their joke. Something inside me cracked. It was not an explosion of rage, but a dense, icy silence, like glass splintering into tiny fractures that were bound to shatter soon. I took a deep breath, set my spoon down on the plate, and lifted my gaze directly at Savannah. She was still sitting there, smug, her eyes gleaming with the confidence of someone who believed she had just won. Slowly, I spoke, my voice so calm it surprised even me. I may not have a husband or children, but where's your money? Oh, right, I'm still the one supporting you. Until today. The room fell silent as though someone had flipped a switch and cut the sound. Savannah's smile froze, her eyes flashing with confusion before quickly hardening into anger. My mother set her fork down, the clatter of metal against porcelain slicing through the tense air. My father narrowed his eyes, leaning forward as if unsure he had heard correctly. I felt every pair of eyes fixed on me, but instead of lowering my head like I always had, I held their gaze, steady and unflinching. In that moment, I thought of all the years I had lived like a shadow in this family. I was the good child, the studious one, the early worker, the daughter who never caused trouble. I had grown used to being ignored while the family gushed over Savannah's so-called achievements, from a high school fashion show to the part-time job she quit after only a few weeks. I had grown used to my mother's comparing glance. Other people's daughters are married with children, and you. I had grown used to my father's tone. You may be good at earning money, but don't think you're better than anyone else. All those words, I swallowed them, turning them into fuel to work harder, to send home more money, clinging to the hope that one day I would be acknowledged. But that day never came. And now, with Savannah openly turning my single life into the butt of a joke, with my parents joining in, I knew I had reached my limit. Savannah forced a laugh, trying to regain her air of superiority. Oh, come on, sis. Why so serious? I was just joking. My mother quickly added, you know how your sister is, Olivia. She just teases for fun, don't take it to heart. My father cleared his throat and spoke in his usual commanding tone. That's right, you're taking this too seriously. She's still young. You can't expect her to be responsible like you. Each word landed heavy, echoing in my head like nails being hammered into a coffin. You can't expect her to be responsible like you. That was the sentence they had stamped on me for years. I was the one who had to carry the weight, who had to sacrifice, who had to grow up for the whole family, while Savannah was allowed to fail, to drift carelessly, to mock the very person keeping her afloat. 7 years ago, Savannah decided to quit her university in Portland after only a year and a half. She called me one rainy afternoon, her voice trembling, saying she no longer had money for tuition or housing, that she had missed the payment deadline and the school was holding her records. I remember sitting in my small Seattle apartment, staring at my bank account balance as my chest tightened. That money was what I had saved for 2 years, hoping to buy my very first car. Instead, I wired nearly $12,000 to her school to cover her debts and even added a few hundred more for her living expenses. When my mother asked, I simply said, I've got it covered, and hung up, my heart aching, yet hopeful that Savannah would finally value the sacrifice. But just a few months later, she dropped out entirely, moved back home, and the money I had poured out was gone without a trace. Another time, one summer, I had planned a week-long vacation in California. I had booked plane tickets, found an Airbnb near Santa Monica Beach, and even bought a sea blue maxi dress just for the trip. It was supposed to be the first vacation I took for myself in years. But only 3 days before departure, my mother called in desperation. The old car she used to get to her part-time job had broken down badly, repairs costing nearly $4,000. I looked at the suitcase already packed, the confirmation emails for flights and lodging, and slowly deleted it all. The plane tickets carried cancellation fees, the Airbnb was non-refundable. I wired my mother the money, then returned to the office as if I had never planned to go anywhere. When coworkers asked why I wasn't taking my trip, I forced a thin smile. Change of plans. Inside, my craving to breathe in California's fresh air was crushed, replaced with a dull emptiness that lingered. But the memory that stings the most is tied to this house, the Tacoma home I once thought was a symbol of safety. My father had landed a big consulting contract, but within months the client pulled out, and the deal collapsed. The bank sent overdue mortgage warnings, threatening foreclosure. I remember that night. My mother sat crying in the kitchen, my father silent, saying nothing, while Savannah shut herself away in her room. I quietly opened my laptop, logged into my savings account, where I had funneled every bonus, every extra hour of overtime. I wired over $15,000 to my father to cover the mortgage, saving the house from the bank's grasp. No one asked if I had enough left to live on. No one offered to repay me. They simply sighed in relief and slipped back into their routines, as if my sacrifice was nothing more than expected. When I added it all up, I had spent tens of thousands of dollars over the course of 7 years. That money could have been the seed capital for my dream business, the down payment on a condo in Seattle, or at the very least the trips that would have allowed me to truly live out my youth. Instead, I sent it away without hesitation, lulling myself with the thought that it was my duty. And that very obedience had turned me into an endless supply line, leading to this moment at the dinner table, listening to my sister's mockery and my parents' laughter echoing in agreement. I began to realize the price I had paid was not just financial. I had sacrificed my youth. While my peers traveled the world, pushed themselves into new careers, bought homes, and started families, I buried myself in a loop, working, sending money, extinguishing other people's crises. I had even sacrificed love. At 28, I dated a good man named Daniel, an architect. He wanted to build a future with me, to buy a home together, to have children. But I turned him away because I knew I could not commit to a new life while my family still pulled me backward. I feared that one day, the late-night calls and endless demands for money would shatter my own happiness. So I let Daniel go because I was too busy keeping the family afloat. Oh how! And what about my career? I worked hard, I was capable, but I never dared to leap to bigger companies or chase faster promotions because I always needed stability to ensure I could help out whenever my parents or Savannah needed. I chose the safe road, the one with fewer risks, but it also meant losing the chance to build something extraordinary. Every single thing I did, every choice I made, revolved around my family, not myself. Sitting there, it became painfully clear. I had traded away my youth, my love, and my career in exchange for something that was never given recognition. And recognition never came. Instead, all I received was mockery. My hand trembled on the table, not from explosive anger, but from a bitter awakening. I had been exploited for far too long, and I was the one who had allowed it to happen. That night, I drove back from Tacoma to Seattle in silence. The I-5 highway was as busy as ever, but the rumble of trucks, the flashing lights, even the blaring horns seemed to slip right past me. Inside, the taunts and laughter of my parents and Savannah replayed endlessly, as though someone were looping a cruel recording. When I reached my small apartment in Capitol Hill, I didn't turn on the lights. I sat in the dark, listening to the ticking of the wall clock, before slowly opening my laptop. The screen glowed, and in that cold light I logged into my bank account. The number that appeared stunned me. I scrolled down, each transfer, each transaction lining up like a written indictment. $750 for Savannah's tuition. $3,200 for my mother's car repairs. $15,000 to cover my father's mortgage. $1,800 to pay off Savannah's credit card when she was threatened with a lawsuit. On and on it went. Dozens of small withdrawals and massive sums strung together. I clicked the filter to view annual summaries. Each year, I had lost at least $10,000 to $12,000 to my family. Over 7 years, the total was more than $80,000. Enough to put a down payment on a condo in Seattle, enough to buy a brand new car, enough to enroll in the MBA program I once dreamed of. Instead, it had all dissolved into emergencies that would never be repaid. I sat still, my hand trembling on the computer mouse. Pain seeped through my body, a suffocating bitterness pressing against my chest. I had sacrificed not only money, but also my youth, my love, and my career, all to serve as the plan B for a family that consumed those sacrifices as if they were owed. Anger surged, but with it came a cold clarity. I could not go on like this anymore. I was not a bank, not an eternal lifeline. I was a human being, and I deserved to live for myself. That night, I opened the transfer app, the one I had used for years to send money to my parents, and slowly pressed the button that said, "Cancel recurring transfer." Such a small action, taking only seconds, yet it felt as though I had shattered chains that had bound me for 7 long years. I sat in silence, watching the screen go dark, and exhaled a long breath. My heart carried worry, even fear of what would come next, but alongside it flickered the faint light of freedom just beginning to glow. 2 days later, the first message arrived. My mother wrote, "Olivia, the mortgage is due soon. Have you sent the money yet?" I read it but didn't reply. Hours later, my father called and left a voicemail. "Olivia, what are you doing? This house needs you. Don't let us suffer." His voice was deep and sharp, echoing with the authority of my childhood, and for the first time in my life, I pressed delete without saving it. Savannah texted too, her tone half scolding, half mocking. "What's wrong with you this time? Stop being dramatic. Mom and Dad are worried. Just send the money, you've got it, don't you?" I stared at the screen, my heart gone cold, then quietly turned off my phone. In the days that followed, the messages poured in like a storm. My mother wrote, "Don't let this small matter tear the family apart." My father wrote, "You're being selfish. This whole family has always relied on you. You have a responsibility." Savannah shifted tactics, moving from scolding to pleading. "I really need you. If you don't help, I'll be evicted. How could you let that happen?" I read them all, but I didn't reply. With every silence, I felt another layer of armor forming around my heart, my resolve growing stronger. On Friday night, I came home to my apartment, sat at my desk, and opened an empty notebook. On the first page, I wrote, "No more Plan B." Beneath it, I listed everything I needed to do for myself: save to buy my own home, spend time with real friends, take care of my health, enroll in the MBA program I had postponed. Each line was like a brick laid down to build the foundation of a new life. When I closed the notebook, I heard my heartbeat slow and steady. My parents might grow furious, Savannah might hate me, and I might lose the false peace I had clung to for years. But I knew that if I didn't stop now, I would lose myself forever. And I was no longer willing to pay that price for such ingratitude. A week after I stopped sending money, my phone rang constantly. My mother sent sweet messages, my father left voicemails heavy as hammers, and Savannah switched her tone back and forth, sometimes scolding, sometimes begging. I read, I listened, but I never responded. Then, at the end of the week, my mother sent one short text. "Come home for dinner this Sunday, the family needs to talk." It wasn't an invitation, it was an order. I sat on the sofa, staring at the words glowing on my screen, my chest tightening. Part of me wanted to refuse, to never return to the place that had drained me. But another part urged me to go, to face it once and for all, rather than let the cycle drag on any longer. On Sunday evening, I drove back to Tacoma. The moment I stepped through the weathered wooden door, I could feel the heaviness in the air. The table was set with roast chicken and mashed potatoes, but the once comforting aroma now felt sharp and suffocating. My mother was arranging the silverware, her movements harsher than usual, as if even the plates had to carry her irritation. My father sat at the head of the table, arms crossed, his face cold as stone. Savannah leaned back in her chair with her arms folded, eyes glued to her phone, pretending indifference, though the curve of her lips carried a smug challenge. I pulled out a chair and sat down. No one spoke for several minutes, only the faint clinking of utensils breaking the silence. Then my mother's voice cut through, directed not at me but at the food on her plate. "Olivia, this family cannot function without your contribution. You make good money, helping is only natural. Your father and I sacrificed for you all these years, now it's your turn to give back. What's wrong with that?" I drew in a deep breath. If it had been me a year ago, I might have bitten my tongue, stayed quiet, and later slipped money into their account in secret. But now, after everything that had built up, I was no longer afraid. I looked straight at my mother, and each word I spoke dropped heavy like stone. "That's not helping, that's exploitation." The room froze. Savannah let out a short, mocking laugh, lifting her eyes from her phone, her gaze sharp with scorn. "Oh, please, don't act so righteous. You've got money, but you're still single. I don't understand why you act so high and mighty. If I were you, I'd be embarrassed that no one even wants to marry me." A rush of heat rose in my chest, but I kept my voice steady, calm, without a tremor. "The difference is that I work for my money, while you only know how to spend it. Without me, you would have lost your place to live a long time ago." My mother quickly interjected, her tone urgent. "Olivia, don't speak to your sister that way. She's still young, she hasn't found her footing like you have. You're the older sister, you have to be more forgiving." I turned, my eyes locked on Savannah, but my words were meant for the entire table. Forgiving doesn't mean letting people trample all over me. I'm not a bank. I'm not a bottomless wallet. All these years, I've stayed silent, I've given, and for what? To be mocked as a failure just because I'm not married? Savannah's face flushed red, her mouth opening as if to fire back, but before she could speak, my father slammed his hand against the table. The sharp crack made the silverware tremble. His glare bore into me, his voice a low growl. "Watch your mouth. This is your home, you should know your place. You think you're so great? You only have money because your parents raised you. Don't forget where you came from." I pushed back my chair, the scrape of wood against the floor piercing the silence. My whole body trembled, but my voice was clear and resolute. "If that's the case, then maybe I don't belong in this house. I've kept it standing, but all I've received in return is contempt. If you see me only as a wallet, then I'm sorry, I won't be here to be exploited any longer." The room fell into silence. My mother's mouth hung open, her eyes brimming with tears, as though she couldn't believe the once obedient daughter dared to push back. Savannah stared at me, her lips parting and closing again, unable to find words. My father's face was flushed with rage, but in his eyes I caught a fleeting flicker, a shift that revealed even he knew I was no longer the same Olivia. I walked away from the table, grabbed my coat, and didn't look back. Each step felt like release, like tearing through an invisible chain that had bound me for 7 years. As the door slammed shut behind me, I heard my mother's voice calling after me. "Olivia, come back, we're family." But I didn't stop. For the first time, I let that call fade behind me, softer and softer, until all that remained was the pounding of my heart, the rhythm of a freedom just beginning to take shape. I drove through the night back to Seattle, my chest heavy yet alight. I knew I had severed a crucial tie, and the road ahead would not be easy. But I also knew one thing with certainty. I was no longer my family's plan B. I was no longer the lifeline they could cling to. And from that moment on, I began reclaiming myself. A week after that confrontation, just as I was trying to keep my routine steady in the city, the real storm hit. It was a Friday afternoon when I received a large envelope from the bank delivered to my apartment. At first, I thought it was just another routine account statement, but the moment I tore open the seal, my hands turned cold. Inside was a thick packet of documents, its title printed in bold, Home Equity Line of Credit Agreement. I flipped quickly through the pages, my heart pounding. There it was, my name, Olivia Hart, listed clearly alongside my social security number, my address, and, most shocking of all, a signature. A messy scrawl, clearly an attempt to imitate mine, but I recognized it instantly. It wasn't mine. I stood frozen by the table, as if someone had punched me hard in the stomach. They had done the one thing I feared most but never truly believed they would dare. They had used my identity to borrow money. And not a small amount, nearly $60,000 secured directly against the Tacoma house. I read more carefully and saw the signing date, just 2 weeks earlier, only days after the dinner where I declared I would no longer provide. The world seemed to collapse around me. This was no longer about being disrespected, no longer about cruel words or mocking laughter. This was outright betrayal. I remember sinking into a chair, the packet slipping from my hands, pages scattering across the floor like snow. In my mind, I saw their faces. My father with his stern expression and commanding voice, my mother with her wet eyes and pleading tone I knew too well, Savannah with her mocking smile. They had chosen to cross the final line, treating my signature as nothing more than a formality they could forge to save the house, the same house I had rescued from the bank time and time again. I gathered the pages one by one, my hands trembling. Part of me screamed, "They are my parents, my family, how could they do this?" But another part, colder, answered, "Because they always have. Because for years they have treated me like a bottomless wallet. Because when I finally said no, they chose to break the law rather than look at themselves." The pain wasn't only in the massive debt now hanging over me, it was in the shattering of the fragile trust I had still held onto. That night, I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. I sat in my dark apartment, the only light the street lamp spilling through the window. The packet lay squarely on the table like evidence of a crime. I picked it up, set it down, picked it up again, questions boiling inside me. How had they gone to the bank? Who had forged my signature? Did the banker know? And above all, had they even thought about the consequences for me? If this loan defaulted, my credit would be ruined, my chance to buy a home destroyed, even my career put at risk. The phone on the table buzzed again and again. A message from my mother. "Olivia, are you okay? Your father and I just managed a little something for the house, don't stress." A message from my father. "The bank has already taken care of it, no need for you to worry. We did this to keep the house." I stared at those words, my chest tightening. Not a single apology. Not a single acknowledgement that they had forged my identity. Only smooth excuses, "We did this for the family." I held my head in my hands as tears spilled out, not just from anger but from the emptiness spreading through my chest. Family, the word I once trusted, had now become the deepest knife. I remembered my childhood, sitting in that Tacoma house, hearing my mother say, "Family is the place you can always trust completely." And now, that very place had turned me into a debtor on paper, with a forged signature. In that moment, I knew there was no going back. This was no longer a quarrel between relatives, no longer just a few cruel words that left me hurt. This was a real crime, a betrayal that could never be justified. I felt something inside me shatter, but along with it came a cold clarity. I had to save myself. I carefully gathered the documents, stacked them neatly in a file folder, and slid it into my desk drawer. That night, I didn't sleep. I just sat watching the blinking lights from the building across the street, hollow inside. My small apartment, once familiar, now felt foreign, as if I had stepped into a new world, one where family was no longer a refuge but a lurking danger. I knew from this moment on, everything had changed forever. When the clock struck 3 in the morning, I whispered a single sentence, etching it into my heart: "They betrayed me, and I will never forget." On Monday morning, I pulled out my phone and dialed the bank's hotline. A woman's voice came through the line. "Wells Fargo, how can I help you today?" I tried to stay calm as I explained that my identity had been used to sign for a home equity loan I had never authorized. My voice trembled, but each word was clear and firm. On the other end, the representative listened carefully, occasionally interrupting with verification questions. After I finished, she paused for a moment before saying, "You need to contact our fraud investigation department immediately. And I strongly recommend you consult an attorney because this involves forgery and identity theft." This is a serious matter. I hung up, my hands still shaking. For a moment, it felt as though the weight of the world had grown heavier by tons. Yet a small spark flickered inside me. For the first time, I could actually do something to protect myself, instead of silently enduring. The next morning, I searched online for lawyers in Seattle who specialized in fraud and identity theft. One name appeared repeatedly, alongside glowing reviews. Rachel Nguyen, a Vietnamese-American attorney who had handled numerous cases of families exploiting finances. I pressed call and scheduled an appointment. By Monday afternoon, I was walking into Rachel's office, a neat building near downtown. The space was filled with natural light, a polished wooden desk, and shelves lined with case files. Rachel looked to be in her early 40s, her black hair neatly pinned, her expression calm but her eyes sharp. She shook my hand firmly and gestured for me to sit. I slid the forged documents across the desk. As Rachel flipped through each page, my heartbeat quickened, afraid she might see me as weak or foolish. But when she looked up, her voice was calm and steady. "Olivia, this isn't just wrong. This is a criminal act. Forgery, fraud, identity theft. Your family has crossed the line from borrowing into breaking the law." I sat frozen, my heart jolting at the words, criminal act. Even though I already knew the truth, hearing it declared so clearly made me tremble. Rachel continued, "You have the right to file a fraud report with the bank, the right to demand removal of liability from this loan. And, if necessary, we can take this to court." I bit my lip, my voice raspy. "But they're my parents, and my sister." Rachel tilted her head, her eyes both firm and compassionate. "I understand, but the fact that their family doesn't change the nature of what they've done. Olivia, you have the right to be protected. You cannot keep letting them trample your life and your future just because of the word family." I sat still, my hands clasped tightly together, my mind in turmoil. Part of me wanted to turn away, to stay silent again for the sake of peace. But the image of that forged signature, the $60,000 debt, and the cold tone of my parents justifying it, kept flashing before me. And then I remembered sitting alone by Puget Sound, listening to the waves, realizing I was nothing more than a wallet to them. That feeling cut deep, like a blade twisting inside me. I knew that if I stayed silent this time, I would lose everything, not just money, but myself. I drew a deep breath, lifted my head, and looked straight at Rachel. "I won't stay silent anymore. Please help me." Rachel nodded, her face calm but her eyes lit with conviction. "We'll start immediately. And Olivia, remember this. This time, you are not alone." Leaving Rachel's office, I stepped out into the street, the wind whipping hard against me, but inside I felt clearer than ever. I knew the road ahead would be difficult, filled with confrontation and bitterness. But I also knew that for the first time in years, I was choosing to stand up for myself. And this time, I would see it through to the end. That evening, after meeting with Rachel, I opened my laptop and, for the first time, didn't feel like someone cornered with no way out. I followed each step she had advised, freezing all my credit to prevent anyone from using my identity again, changing every password from emails to bank accounts to small things like Netflix and Amazon. Each time I typed in a new password, it felt like I was building another wall of protection around my life. Then I opened a brand new account at a different bank, one no one in my family knew about, and transferred most of my savings there. The relief of seeing my balance safe in a sealed space was indescribable, like regaining control that had been slipping through my fingers for years. It wasn't just about finances. I began thinking about myself differently. The next morning, instead of lying in bed until the last minute before rushing to the office, I signed up for a yoga class near my apartment. On the first day, my body was stiff, every stretch making sweat bead on my skin, but when I lay down on the mat and heard the instructor whisper, "Let go," tears slipped down my face. For so many years, I had only ever held everything in, never allowing myself to release. Alongside yoga, I started cooking for myself instead of living on takeout. Simple meals, pan-seared chicken, fresh salad, A small glass of wine gave my little apartment the feeling of a real home, not just a stopover for someone exhausted. At work, the change began to show too. I poured my energy into a big project that had been left hanging for months. I stayed late, focused hard, and for the first time in years, I felt true excitement in what I was doing. One afternoon, my boss Matthew walked past my desk, paused, and placed his hand on the report I had just finished. "Excellent work, Olivia. I can see a real change in you." That brief compliment warmed me the entire day. I realized that when I was no longer drained dry by my family, I could shine in my own way. As I worked to rebuild my life, Rachel wasted no time. Just 2 days after our meeting, she sent a formal letter to the bank demanding an investigation into the forged signature. I was CC'd on the email, and when I saw the words "suspected forgery" printed clearly in black and white, I let out a long breath, part fear, part relief. It was no longer just a nightmare circling in my head. It had become a real case, handled in a professional way. At the same time, I started a new habit, keeping every trace of contact from my family. My mother's messages, from the sweet ones, "Honey, this family needs you," to the veiled threats, "Without you, we'll lose everything." My father's voicemails, his voice heavy, sometimes menacing, sometimes pretending to be gentle. Savannah's texts, shifting back and forth, sharp, "You're so selfish," then pleading, "Help me just this one last time, I promise I'll change." I saved them all, neatly organized in a folder labeled "Evidence." Each time I read or listened again, the pain burned, but so did my resolve. They would never again have the chance to deny what they had done. And yet, in the quiet of certain nights, my heart still sank. I remembered family dinners filled with genuine laughter, my mother's warm hugs when I was a child, the way my father once held the bike steady as I learned to ride. But then the image of those forged documents would return, the endless desperate calls echoing in my ears, reminding me that those beautiful memories were part of the past. Family was no longer a safe place. Family had become the very thing I had to defend myself against. Each morning, I put on a new kind of calm. I walked into the office with steadiness, showed up to yoga with patience, and cooked myself dinner as if to remind myself, "Olivia, you are worthy of care too." And every evening, as the evidence folder grew heavier, I knew I was no longer just surviving. I was preparing for the day I would face them not as a walking wallet, but as a woman who knew her own worth. One night, I sat by the window, city lights reflecting off the glass, a cup of hot tea in my hands. I no longer felt the trembling, no longer felt the darkness swallowing me whole. Instead, I felt a patient waiting, a small flame burning steady. I whispered, "This time, they will have to face me. And I will not step back." Rachel and I spent nearly a week pulling the case together. She guided me through gathering every piece of evidence, bank statements, transfer confirmation, emails, even the random receipts I had stuffed into drawers over the years. When the final tally appeared, $84,762 over 7 years, I sat stunned. Nearly $85,000. Not a few hundred, not a few thousand. That was my youth, the vacations I never took, the dates I canceled, the promotions I passed over just to keep everything afloat. Rachel organized it all into a thick binder, each section marked with colored tabs. Payment history, forged loan, Savannah's records. Inside were also Savannah's own defaults, canceled credit cards, overdue student loans, old eviction notices. Looking at those pages, I shivered, as though staring into a mirror that stripped me bare, while at the same time realizing I was ready to hold that mirror up to them. On Sunday, I drove back to Tacoma. The house of my childhood still stood there, with its peeling white fence and creaking wooden porch, but to me, it was no longer a place of safety. I walked in, binder clutched tightly in my hands. The air in the living room was heavy. My mother busied herself shuffling a stack of papers, avoiding my eyes. My father sat in his armchair, his gaze dark. Savannah leaned against the wall, arms crossed, a half-smile playing on her lips, defiant. I set the binder down on the wooden table, the thud landing like a hammer blow. I'll be direct. I began, my voice so steady it surprised even me. This is the full record of everything I've paid for this family over the last 7 years. Nearly $85,000. This is the evidence of the forged mortgage loan signed under my name. And these are Savannah's debt records. I flipped each tab, sliding the pages toward them. The three of them sat in silence. My father's brow furrowed as he prepared to speak, but I raised my hand to stop him. I am no longer this family's lifeline. From today, you have 30 days to remove my name from every loan, especially the home equity loan. If it's not done in 30 days, I will sue. For forgery, financial fraud, and exploitation. I looked each of them in the eye. My mother shrinking back, Savannah paling, my father gripping the arm of his chair. This is not a threat, this is an ultimatum. End of 4. The room was so silent I could hear the clock ticking. Finally, my mother stammered, "Olivia, you can't do this. This is your home." I let out a short, cold laugh, harsher than I thought myself capable of. No. This is the house I've kept standing with my blood and sweat, but it's not my home anymore, because the people inside it only ever saw me as an ATM. My father slammed his hand on the table. That's how you speak to your parents? I stood, pulled the binder back into my arms, and said evenly, I speak this way because it's the truth. 30 days. I won't repeat myself again. I turned and walked toward the door without looking back. The late Tacoma sky was heavy and gray, but inside I felt clearer than ever. No more trembling, no more guilt. Only the cold serenity of someone who had finally set down a burden carried for far too long. I drove back to Seattle, the wind rushing against the car windows as if it were washing away every wound. 2 weeks later, Rachel called. Her voice was calm, but I could hear the hint of relief. The bank has finished the investigation. The signature was confirmed as forged. They will remove all legal liability from you. I sat frozen for a few seconds, my eyes stinging. Years of being dismissed, years of sacrifice that meant nothing, and now, at last, justice had taken my side. Rachel continued, Olivia, you are officially free from that debt. From now on, they will have to carry it themselves. I looked out the window of my apartment, Seattle bathed in a warm golden glow. In that moment, it felt like a chapter had closed. My family might still drown in their spiral of debt and lies, but I would not. I had chosen to stand up, to draw the line, to break free from invisible chains. And most of all, I knew I would never again step into the role of their emergency bank. Nah. That night, I opened a bottle of wine, sat on my balcony, and breathed in the crisp October air. For the first time in years, I felt truly free. The news that the Tacoma house was up for sale didn't come to me through a call or even a message from my family, but through the public real estate records Rachel had advised me to monitor. The image of the house appeared on the realtor's website, the weathered roof, the familiar wooden steps, but this time stamped with the bold red words, "For sale." A strange wave rose inside me, a mix of sorrow and inevitability, as though I had known this ending was always coming. My parents couldn't refinance. After the forged signature was confirmed, the bank stood firm, and now the debt forced them to sell what I once thought would always be a place to return to. Savannah called me only once, her voice breaking. You really let it come to this? The house is gone. I don't know where to go. I sat in silence, listening to her sobs on the other end. Once, I would have rushed to her side, handed her my bank card, and carried the weight myself. But this time, I only said softly, Savannah, you have to learn to stand on your own. I can't keep doing it for you. Then I hung up, my chest aching but lighter at the same time. A week later, my mother sent a message. Sunday dinner. One last meal in the house, can you come? I hesitated, then agreed. Not because I felt responsible, but because I needed to see the chapter close with my own eyes. That evening, I drove to Tacoma for the last time. The house felt hollow, stripped of its life. Hallways stacked with cardboard boxes, the living room bare of furniture, only a few faded curtains still hanging loose. The air was so heavy I could hear every clink of spoon against plate. My father sat silently, his hair grayer, his eyes dimmed as though the fire had gone out. My mother laid out a simple meal, nothing elaborate. Savannah said nothing, her eyes rimmed red. Through the entire dinner, hardly anyone spoke. Only after the dishes were cleared did I finally break the silence, my voice steady, without a trace of trembling. I'm not cutting ties. I'm still your daughter, still Savannah's sister. But I'm no longer the lifeline. From now on, if someone falls, they have to learn to stand on their own. My words echoed through the room, leaving all three of them stunned. No one argued, no one pleaded, only silence remained. I rose from my chair and walked into the hallway, my eyes passing over the labeled boxes, kitchen, bedroom, books. So many childhood memories, once bound to duty and obligation, now packed into worn brown cardboard. I opened the door, drew a deep breath of Tacoma's cold night air, then turned back for one last word. I hope you all find a way forward. But I can't live your lives for you anymore. As I stepped down the porch steps, I knew I was leaving behind a piece of my youth. That house had held me in place with the invisible chains of obligation. Now it was gone, and the chains had broken with it. In the weeks that followed, I poured all my energy into work. The project I led exceeded every expectation, and during the quarterly meeting, my boss Matthew publicly said, "Olivia is the reason we achieved this breakthrough." A few months later, I received my promotion to Senior Product Manager. For the first time in my life, my success wasn't overshadowed by desperate calls for money from my family. It was simply mine, earned by my own ability and my own resolve. Outside of work, I began rebuilding my personal life. I joined a Thursday night cooking class where I met new friends, people who didn't care how much money I had or whether I was single or married. They valued sincerity and the stories I shared. I joined a volunteer group at the community center, helping kids learn STEM. Every time I saw their eager faces holding the little robots they had built with their own hands, I felt the true meaning of giving, not through money exploited from me, but through time and heart. I also started caring for myself in small but meaningful ways, jogging around Green Lake on weekend mornings, spending afternoons reading at a cafe, cooking myself a good dinner in the evenings, then calling friends just to laugh and talk. I was no longer haunted by the flood of desperate messages from my family. My phone was quiet now, and that silence was the most beautiful music I had ever known. One December evening, I stood on my apartment balcony, Seattle glowing beneath me, the city lights shimmering on the water like countless stars. I took a sip of wine, breathed in the crisp air, and smiled softly. Not the smile of a victor, but the smile of someone who had finally found herself again. The message rang clearly in my heart, as if written there. Your value does not lie in being everyone else's lifeline. It lies in standing strong on your own, and keeping close only those who truly cherish you. And I knew, from that moment on, that would be the compass guiding my life.
Fiancé invited my high school bully to our wedding as a surprise guest and called it a harmless prank. Then when I called off the wedding, he posted on social media calling me crazy and controlling. Had things been normal, or rather ideal, I would have been on my honeymoon at this moment, instead of writing a stupid Reddit post to get perspective from people I don't even know. I had no idea life would turn around to be so cruel and unpredictable. I should be in Greece right now, with the man I consider to be the love of my life before he broke my trust, carved a dagger out of it, and pierced my heart with it. I was supposed to get married to Duncan, M28, who I've been in a relationship with for 3 years now. The relationship was never problematic, so I had never anticipated that something like this could happen. It was actually one of my best and most secure relationships, which is why now I feel like maybe I did overreact and cause such a fuss over what was a harmless prank. In high school, there was a guy named Aaron who was the stereotypical bully. He was good at sports, a little dumb otherwise, and unnecessarily cruel. There was no reason for him to be this wicked and wild. I know there is a general tendency for everyone to look for some sob story and try to whitewash every villain that they come across. Thanks, Disney, but there was absolutely no redeeming quality to Aaron. He was just pathetic, disgusting, and a bonehead, and honestly, with the kind of stunts he used to pull off in school, he should be rotting in some kind of remand home. The problem was that his father was a powerful figure in our city. We come from a small town, so nobody could do jack st about him. Everyone in school knew he was a bully, and nobody had the guts to stand up against him, not even the teachers. One day, I had had enough. I went to the principal of the school to complain, and he said that he would look into it and do something about it. A month passed, and nothing happened. Aaron hadn't stopped, so I knew the principal hadn't done anything. I went to the office again, this time with my dad. My dad forced the principal to make a written complaint so that it was in the school records. I was too young to understand that at the time, but now I do. Dad knew that if we tried to escalate the situation outside the school, the principal could just claim that I had never come to them with a complaint. So Dad ensured that we created a paper trail that couldn't be refuted. Things got serious. Aaron was called to the office, and his father was called. The father didn't turn up, he was too busy, you see. On another day, his mother was called, but she didn't turn up. This happened 3 times, and no parent came. So ultimately, it just boiled down to the principal giving him a verbal warning that this should not be repeated, and if it did, the school would have to take action against him. Everyone knew that the school wouldn't take any action against him. But most importantly, Aaron knew that nobody could touch him. He was invincible, and that was the moment when the bullying got exponentially worse. Earlier, it was just insults and things, but now it devolved into actual pranks. Like he would tip the guy in the school cafeteria to put a roach in my food. He would lace my usual class seat with gum, and that would stain all my clothes. He was clever about it. He wasn't abusing me either physically or verbally, but had resorted to some mean and twisted kind of mental torture, which was somehow hilarious to everyone else around me. Whenever I tried to create a fuss about it, I was called a prude and a snob, and that I had no funny bone in my body. All in all, the experience was horrible, and even though it was a decade ago, I sometimes still have nightmares from it, and I hate Aaron with every fiber in my being. There is no way that I would ever forgive him. Even if he has changed, which the grapevine tells me he has, I don't care. I don't owe him forgiveness, and I am never going to forgive him. Aaron became a part of my past that I buried deep inside me once I left for college. I went out of state, graduated, and have never been in contact with him or in touch with him since. Both of us have a few mutuals on social media, so I would get to see him in a group photo or something once in a while, but that was the extent of it. For me, the Aaron chapter was over the minute I stepped out of school, and even though I am still traumatized by what he put me through, I had mentally just stopped engaging with his memories or that part of my life. When I met Duncan around 3 years ago, we hit it off pretty quickly. 6 months into the relationship, however, he tried to pull a funny prank on me. He was the self-proclaimed prankster of his group and was quite proud of it. I had come to know this in the initial few weeks of us dating. However, I had made it very clear to him that I was not one for pranks and that it just triggered bad memories in me. He seemed to understand it, but 6 months in, he tried to play a prank on me. I got wind of it beforehand, and I thwarted his plans. We had the biggest fight of our relationship at that point in time, and I was very close to breaking up with him. I told him that if he couldn't respect such a basic demand that I had from him, I actually had no words, and he could do whatever the hell he wanted to. I was out of this mess. It was a bad fight because he said that it wasn't such a big deal and I needed to grow a funny bone. It just kept on getting worse, and I got horrid flashbacks from school. That was when I broke down and told him what had happened to me when I was in school. He was quiet for a moment and then apologized profusely. He said that he had no idea that I had gone through this, and he was very sorry. He seemed sincere about it, and I thought that I should give him the benefit of the doubt because he didn't know all my trauma associated with pranks. This was 2.5 years ago, and he had never pranked me again, until the day of our wedding. I had honestly completely forgotten about that incident. I had no reason to remember it. I know it was a massive fight, but things got resolved, and he was genuinely remorseful, so we pushed past that bump. Now, coming to the day of the wedding, everything was going smoothly. It was a small ceremony that we had planned with a couple of friends and family, and I was very happy. I was certain that he was the guy I wanted to spend the rest of my life with, and I thought that everything was perfect. Duncan had mentioned that he had invited a special guest to the wedding a few weeks ago, but I didn't really pay much heed to it. I thought that it would be his old grandmother. I love her, she's a sweetheart, and she had told us that she wouldn't be able to make it. I had thought she had somehow managed to come anyway. It's around half an hour before I am to walk down the aisle. There are a million things running through my mind. I try to call Eloise, my maid of honor, but the call isn't going through. I panic a little, calm myself, and then call Samantha, a bridesmaid. The same thing. The call isn't going through. I try Neha, another bridesmaid, and it says the same thing. By this point, alarm bells are blaring in my head. I call Jonah, Duncan's best man, and he says that he can't see anyone from my wedding party, essentially the bridesmaids and my maid of honor, and he was about to call me to check if everything is okay. I ask Mom, who was with me at the time, to call Dad up and find out what was happening, and she comes back all flustered, saying that nobody has any idea where these guys are. I am hyperventilating at this point, and I am genuinely scared because I can't get through to anyone. I asked Jonah to not tell Duncan, because I don't want him to get worried. Little did I know that this was his doing all along. I try to sneak into the wedding hall in order to figure out what the hell is up, and what I see just makes the earth shake from beneath my feet. It was Aaron at the door. I don't remember anything else, I just remember gasping and collapsing on the floor. I was completely frozen, I couldn't move my damn body, and a few people actually had to carry me away. There was a lot of commotion for the next couple of minutes, I remember that much. I faintly remember Duncan coming towards me. He was concerned, I'll give him that. But when I got better, I don't even know how long that took, he started laughing. He said that I should have seen my face, and that it was the best prank he had pulled in ages. I looked at him in disbelief. By that time, my maid of honor and bridesmaids had come, so I asked them where they were. They said that they had been locked inside a room and their phones weren't reachable. Duncan was the one who had called them there, and he had even taken away the phones of some of them, and Aaron was the one who had locked them inside. I hissed at Eloise, she has been my friend since school, and she knows about the entire Aaron thing. I asked her why he was here, and she said that Aaron was the special guest Duncan was talking about. Even at that point, I couldn't get what these guys were saying, so I asked all of them to leave and told Duncan that I wanted to talk to him. He said that we could talk after the ceremony, because it was getting late anyway. I didn't budge, and I asked him why Aaron was there. The thing is, he knew who Aaron was. I had shown him photos from school, so it wasn't as though he had no idea who Aaron was. Apparently, Aaron got a job in the same office building as Duncan, and both of them actually hit it off a few months ago. When Aaron found out that I was the one Duncan was engaged to, he was overjoyed. What an absolute moron, because he thought that since we had a friendly history together, things would be better. I asked Duncan why he encouraged Aaron, or even became friends with him, and his response was that Aaron had actually told him the truth of the matter. Apparently, Aaron's version was that he was not a bully, but rather a jokester, and I used to be very sensitive. That was why Duncan decided that it was best if Aaron came to the wedding and we could bury the hatchet. I was too stunned to speak. I don't know what came over me, but I took off my ring and handed it to him. I told him that we were over, and there was no wedding happening. All hell broke loose. I went outside, announced that the wedding was off and thanked everyone for coming, and just took off with my family. I really don't know how my friends handled the mess after that, but they did, and they haven't told me what they did because they don't want to stress me out. This was last week, and Duncan has gone crazy. He has been blowing up my phone, my parents' phones, his family is continually trying to get in touch with me, but I have just iced him out. I have been so numb these past few days, and I can't even think straight. And if that's not all, he has been slandering me all across social media, saying things like I couldn't have taken a single prank, and that I was a prude and whatnot. It is a mess, and I really don't know how the hell I got into this mess. Things were perfect between us, and it wasn't supposed to be this way. I don't know what made him pull that prank. I don't even know what led me to take that decision. I saw Aaron, and everything came flooding back. And I think even at that point, I hadn't thought of calling the wedding off. When I heard Duncan's excuse and justification for what he did, I just lost it. I couldn't believe that the man who had known me for so long, whom I had confided in and shared the most traumatic part of my life with, had suddenly decided to believe my abuser over me. He had no reason to do that. He hadn't even told me that Aaron was working in the same building. To me, even associating with him was wrong, but maybe I am overreacting. Because I am all across social media, and Duncan has been cussing me out. Everyone says that I have been very dramatic about all of it, and that it was foolish to throw away 3 years over one stupid joke. My parents and my friends support me, and they say that I was in the right to do what I did, but they also say that eventually I will have to talk to Duncan, and I can't keep avoiding it for all time to come. I know that I will need to talk to him, but God, I don't know what to say. I am second guessing my own decision right now. Maybe all the others are right. Maybe I could have handled it better. Even if I was annoyed, I could have just resolved it in a different way rather than choosing to go all nuclear. I don't know what to do, and I don't know where life is going to take me. Update 1. It has been 2 weeks since my last post, and I have finally had some time to think about what happened and why I reacted the way I did. It wasn't easy, but it had to be done. I also went through every single comment that you guys posted, and though I didn't reply to some of them, I have read all of them. I am so thankful for you and your advice, and I'm glad I came to Reddit for help. You guys have opened my eyes to so much that I was willing to brush under the carpet because my ex-fiancé was a prankster. I didn't even realize exactly how bad the situation was and how demeaning and insulting it was to me as a partner. To all those who pointed out just how big of an a-hole Duncan is, I want to say thank you. Because even though he has been great in all the years before this is something that is not excusable, at least in my eyes. The funny part is that because I still haven't spoken to him about what happened on the wedding day, he is continuing to spew st about me everywhere. In public, he is acting as though everything is my fault, but privately, he has been begging me to talk. I wanted to be done with the drama, so I had gone to meet him yesterday. He wanted to come home, but I said that I would only be willing to meet him in a public place. We met at a cafe, and the meeting was a disaster, to say the very least. I had hoped, stupidly, I admit, that he would at least have had some remorse, that he would have used this time to introspect and dig deep to understand why I reacted the way that I did. But no. He was his usual cocky self, and I had had enough of it. He started off by saying that I had reacted very poorly, and it had shamed him in society. He also said that it wasn't that big of a prank, and it certainly did not warrant such an overreaction. I let him speak to his heart's content and then tore his argument apart bit by bit. I told him that the fact that he had even invited Aaron to the wedding was weird as hell. Why would you even think of bringing my abuser to the day that is supposed to be the most special one in my life? He had the audacity to scoff at me and say, I know how big of an abuser he was, Mel. I had never in my life imagined that he would stoop to this level and say something so cruel to me, but well, maybe I had never seen this side of him. It took every ounce of strength in me to not jump across the table and slap him square in the face. I told him that if he believed a literal stranger over me, the woman he wanted to marry, then I had nothing more to say, and that I was glad I called off the wedding. He rolled his eyes, and I believe he was still treating it like a minor fight and not a breakup. He said that I was being dramatic for no reason, and I needed to calm down and talk rationally. I told him that there was no more talking to be done between us because he clearly didn't believe what I said. Moreover, he chose to believe my abuser, call him to the wedding, all for what? A few cheap laughs. And nobody found it funny except him. It wasn't even a good prank at that. He then said something that just made me lose all respect for him. He said that he was willing to forgive me and take me back, in spite of my silly shenanigans. But I needed to publicly admit that I was being dramatic. It was like talking to and listening to a goddamn wall. He was being so obtuse about the entire thing, as if I was the one at fault. And at that point, I realized that he genuinely believed that it was me at fault. He kept on insisting that I needed to stop taking all this so seriously, and I had had enough. He was being a bonehead, and I had no interest in talking to him anymore. I just handed him my ring, and I think that is when he realized that I was dead serious about us not being together anymore. His entire demeanor changed in an instant. It was pathetic to watch, honestly. He started begging me to reconsider, saying that he made a mistake and whatnot. The change was disgusting because I knew it wasn't genuine. I told him that if it took me returning the ring to realize how big of a mistake this was, then he is an immature little schoolboy. I told him that we were done and that I was not reconciling with him. He begged me to sit down so that we could talk more about this, but I was done. I walked out of the cafe, and I felt so much relief and power in that single instant. The feeling is indescribable. He has been blowing up my phone since then, apologizing, saying that he now realizes that he was wrong. But I haven't been responding at all. What is the point of realizing all this now, when I have called off the wedding and given my ring back? I don't need his sick apologies anymore. I know it's going to hurt in the longer run. We've been together for 3 years, we had planned an entire life with each other. So yeah, it is going to be difficult, and it will probably hit me in a couple of days, the magnitude of it all. But it is what it is. I can't force myself to be with him again. He hasn't just betrayed my trust. I have also lost all respect for him, and for me, there is no coming back from that. None at all. So yeah, there goes 3 years, and there goes everything else, but at least I can sleep at night knowing that I made the right choice for myself. Update 2. I took the advice of a lot of you around here and decided to clear the air myself. After my meeting with Duncan, he was acting all needy and clingy for a couple of days, after which he went radio silent. I had thought that maybe he had understood that it was over for good between us, and good sense had prevailed. I was wrong. I got a frantic call from Eloise, who told me that Duncan had posted a long sob story on both Facebook and Instagram for the world to see. It was a very one-sided, half-baked attempt at trying to garner sympathy, and any last ounce of respect that I felt for him evaporated the minute I finished reading all that he had written. He had basically called me every name in the book and told the world that I was the one causing him distress because I was jealous of the fact that he was making new friends, aka Aaron. He tried to portray me as a Bats T crazy, controlling partner, writing things like I had always been this way, and he had had to compromise on friends and friendships because of me. That has never happened. He tried to paint me as a toxic woman who had a problem with anyone that wasn't me, So much so that I was insecure over a friend that he had made in the office, and the worst part according to him was that the friend was a man, so there was no chance of anything happening between them. He pretended to be all good and submissive in the post, saying that he would have understood and even relented had his friend been a woman, but given the way I was behaving over a male friend, going to the extent of canceling the wedding and not being open to reconciliation, it showed that I was egotistical, insecure, and narcissistic. He threw together whatever words he could find and tried to malign me in the worst way possible. I had never thought that he could stoop to this level, but he proved me wrong again. And I knew that I had to do some damage control. This was getting completely out of hand, and it was time for me to play some offense, or he would just whitewash everything that he had done and become the victim in the entire situation. It took me an entire day to sort out my thoughts and write whatever I did. The text/post is too long to copy here, but it didn't really say anything other than what I have already mentioned in my original post. I made sure to include the part where I was bullied by his new friend in school and that I had told him early on in the relationship that I had an aversion to pranks of this sort. I didn't mince words, I didn't try to be nice about it. But I also did not lie. Every single word that I put out for the world to see was the truth, and that was exactly what was not palatable to Duncan. To say that the post blew up would be an understatement. All the people who were whining over what a bitch I was and consoling and cajoling Duncan were now storming my DMs to apologize and get their act right. I was flooded with texts and calls, surprisingly none from Duncan himself. I just got a text from him a day later calling me a stupid bitch, and that was it. I then blocked his numbers because I don't need him in my life anymore, and I certainly don't need any more of this drama. The surprising thing that happened was that his mom reached out to me. I have always liked her, she has been the sensible kind, even though we haven't interacted a lot to be considered close. She told me that she had heard a very different story from Duncan and that she was sorry for not asking me earlier. She said that she had believed her son, and that she now realizes that that was a mistake. She apologized on his behalf, and I told her that she didn't have to. Out of all the people that reached out to me, her apology and message seemed the most genuine, and she didn't even have to apologize if I am being honest. It wasn't her fault that her grown son was behaving this way. I thankfully haven't had anything from Aaron yet, and I know I won't. If he still had the gall to stand in front of me and play that stupid prank on the day of my wedding, I can make a fairly accurate estimate of how much he would have matured in all these years. 0. The narrative has changed now, and people are boycotting Duncan, both for being in a hole and for lying about everything for social media brownie points and sympathy from internet strangers. It's sad how things have turned out for him. It's sad for me, too, because the adrenaline rush from all this drama is going to wear off soon, and I am dreading that because that is when I will have to face reality. It's not something that can be avoided, and now I think it's time I rip the band-aid off. It has been a long time now, me swimming and drowning alternatively in this godforsaken mess. It's time I got myself out of it. I owe it to myself and my parents and friends who have stood by me in this entire episode. Thanks to all of you who supported me and made me stand firm on my decision because I was very close to retracing my steps and going back to Duncan when I had first posted. I am glad I didn't go through with it, and I didn't let him gaslight me into thinking that I was the one overreacting. Hopefully, things will get better from here onwards. Update 3, I'm going on a trip. Duncan and I had originally planned that we would go for our honeymoon a couple of weeks after the wedding. Well, now this is no honeymoon, but I had spent considerable money on the bookings, so I thought, why the hell not? I am going to go for a solo trip to Southeast Asia. I know it might sound weird to a lot of you, but I need a break, and after being in a relationship for 3 years, I need to restart, and more importantly, rediscover how to do things myself. I have had no contact from him now, which makes me really relieved, and also a bit sad because no matter what happened, I do miss him. Of course, I am not going to go back to him, but it isn't easy letting go of an attachment that lasted for so long. So I need this trip in order to get back on track and get my mind off things. The situation isn't ideal, but I need to learn how to make the best of it.
My family forced me into years of therapy for anger issues. Turns out I wasn't the problem, and what I revealed at the final session left them speechless. Original post. 26 male, just had my final therapy session yesterday. After 6 years of being told I had anger management issues, turns out I was just the family scapegoat responding normally to abnormal treatment. Started when I was 20. Family staged an intervention. Mom, 49, Dad, 51, older sister Nicolette, 28, and younger brother Jasper, 23, all sitting in the living room with printed articles about anger disorders. Mom, Felix, we love you, but your anger is tearing this family apart. What anger? See, the denial is part of the problem. I'm genuinely confused. What did I do? You yelled at me last week. You took my car without asking and brought it back on empty after I had to miss work. Mom, that's no excuse for raising your voice. I said, seriously, Nick, again? That's hardly yelling. You're always so hostile. When? This defensiveness is exactly what we're talking about. They'd already booked therapy appointments, made it clear that if I refused, I'd need to find somewhere else to live. I was in college, working part-time, couldn't afford rent, so I went. Dr. Miranda Vaughn was my therapist. First session, she asked why I was there. Me, apparently I have anger issues. What makes you think that? Me, my family says so. But what do you think? I don't know. Maybe they see something I don't. That's how it started. 6 years of weekly sessions, trying to fix my anger problem. Except the more we talked, the more Dr. Vaughn noticed something else entirely. Update 1. After about a year of therapy, Dr. Vaughn started asking different questions. Tell me about your childhood. Me, normal, I guess. Middle child stuff. Give me specifics. So I did, and patterns emerged that I'd never noticed. Nicolette broke my PlayStation in high school. When I got upset, I was overreacting and had to apologize to her for making her feel bad. Jasper used to steal money from my wallet. When I put a lock on my door, I was paranoid and hostile. Mom would borrow my birthday money for emergencies, then forget to pay back. Asking about it was selfish. Dad gave my car to Nicolette when I went to college because she needed it more. I found out when I came home for break. How did these incidents make you feel? Me, angry, I guess, which proves their point. Being angry when someone steals from you is normal. How did you express this anger? I'd ask them to stop, sometimes firmly. Did you yell? Throw things? Get physical? No, never. Then why do you think you have an anger problem? Me, because they said so? She had me start keeping a journal. Document every anger incident, what happened, how I responded, how they reacted. The pattern was insane. Nicolette totals my bike. I sigh heavily. Felix's anger is out of control. Jasper eats my labeled leftovers. I say, dude, not cool. Felix attacked me. Mom throws away my collector's edition games. I ask why. Felix screamed at me. But here's the kicker. Dr. Vaughn had me record some interactions, legal in my state. The recordings showed me speaking calmly, them yelling at me, them later describing it completely differently. Dr. Vaughn, Felix, I need to be direct. You don't have an anger problem. You're being gaslit. Update 2. 3 years into therapy, Dr. Vaughn suggested something radical. I'd like to bring your family in for a session. Me, they'll never agree. Tell them it's to address your progress and get their input. They jumped at the chance to tell the professional how difficult I was. That session was eye-opening. Within 10 minutes, Mom interrupted me 15 times. Nicolette rolled her eyes whenever I spoke. Jasper was on his phone. Dad kept saying, see what we deal with, every time I tried to participate. Dr. Vaughn, I notice Felix hasn't shown any anger despite being interrupted and dismissed repeatedly. He's just hiding it. He'll explode later. Has Felix ever exploded? Silence. Well, he gets that look. What look? Like he's judging us. How does being judged make you feel? Attacked. And there it was. My existence was an attack. My reactions to their behavior were the problem, not the behavior itself. After they left, Dr. Vaughn was blunt. Your family has created a dynamic where you're not allowed to have normal emotional responses. They've labeled you the problem to avoid examining their own behavior. So what do? Start setting boundaries, document everything, and consider family therapy. Surprisingly, they agreed to family therapy, but only if their therapist ran it. Enter Dr. Robert Henley, Mom's golf buddy. Update 3. Family therapy with Dr. Henley was a joke. Every session, Felix, your family feels hurt by your anger. Let's explore why you lash out. Me, can we discuss specific incidents? Let's not dwell on the past. Meanwhile, I was documenting everything on Dr. Vaughn's advice. The birthday incident, my 24th birthday. Family forgot but threw Jasper a surprise party the next day. When I mentioned feeling hurt, Mom said I was materialistic. Got it on video. The graduation scandal. Finished my degree despite everything. Family didn't come because Nicolette had a nail appointment. When I expressed disappointment, Dad called me dramatic. Saved all texts. The car situation. Saved up, bought myself a used Honda Nicolette, borrowed it, hit a pole, didn't tell me I found out from insurance company. When confronted, family said I was victimizing her. Have dash cam footage of her texting while driving. The money trail. Started tracking every time they borrowed. Money, total over 4 years, $8,750 never paid back. Asking about it meant I was keeping the score. Dr. Vaughn helped me see the pattern. I was the family ATM scapegoat combo. Convenient to blame, useful to exploit. Then came the holidays last year. The mask fully slipped. Mom called asking what I was contributing to Christmas dinner. Me, I'll bring dessert. And? Me, that's it. Nicolette's bringing her new boyfriend. We need to impress him. You should cover the catering. That's like $400. Don't be selfish. Family helps family. When has family helped me? We've spent thousands on your therapy. There it was. They held the therapy they forced me into over my head. I started planning. Update 4. By year 6 of therapy I had 47 videos of family gaslighting, 200 plus screenshots of texts, financial records of one-sided help, Dr. Vaughn's clinical notes with her permission, a recording of Dr. Henley admitting Mom influenced his approach. Dr. Vaughn and I spent months preparing. She connected me with a colleague who specialized in family dynamics and gaslighting. We built a presentation. Then, opportunity knocked. Dad's 52nd birthday was coming up. Big party planned. Mom wanted to show off to her book club friends. Called me with demands disguised as requests. Mom, Felix, we need you to handle the photographer and arrive early to set up, and probably leave early so you don't have one of your moods. Me, actually, I have something important to discuss with the family. This isn't the time for your drama. It's about ending therapy. Dr. Henley thinks a final family session would be closure. Perked up. You're finally accepting you're better? Something like that. She scheduled it immediately. Even sent a group text. Felix is finally ready to acknowledge his progress. So proud. The stage was set. Final update yesterday, 2 p.m. Dr. Henley's office. Everyone showed up. Mom in her pearls, Dad checking stocks, Nicolette taking selfies, Jasper slouching. Dr. Henley looked smug. Dr. Henley, Felix requested this session to discuss ending therapy. Felix? Me, thank you. I've prepared something. Connected my laptop to his TV. Mom looked annoyed but intrigued. Me, 6 years ago, you staged an intervention for my anger issues. Today, I want to show you what I've learned. Clicked play. Slide 1. The anger myth. Video compilation of me speaking calmly while being screamed at, talked over, dismissed. Mom, that's taken out of context. Me, there's timestamps. Slide 2. The financial abuse. Spreadsheet of every loan never repaid. Screenshots of them calling me selfish for asking. Dad, you kept track? That's petty. It's $8,750. Slide 3. The gaslighting. Side-by-side comparisons. What actually happened. How they described it later. Text recordings. Nicolette, this is insane. You've been recording us? Me, you said I imagined things. I needed proof. Slide 4. The therapist's assessment. Dr. Vaughn's professional evaluation read by her colleague via Zoom. In my professional opinion, Felix shows no signs of anger management issues. Instead, he displays remarkable restraint when faced with consistent manipulation, financial exploitation, and emotional abuse from his family system. Dr. Henley went pale. Slide 5. The conspiracy. Recording of Dr. Henley. And Mom, just keep focusing on his anger. He needs to believe he's the problem. This feels unethical, Linda. I'm paying you, aren't I? The room erupted. You recorded private conversations? Me, therapy's supposed to be neutral. You weaponized it. This is such a you thing to do. What? Document abuse? Started crying. After everything we've done for you. What have you done for me? You've done things to me. Final slide. The bill. Invoice for $8,750 in loans, $31,200 for therapy, 6 years at $100 a week, $2,400 for the car damage. Total, $4,250. Me, I'm not asking for repayment. I'm showing you the cost of making me the problem instead of addressing your own issues. Then I dropped the real bomb. Me, Dr. Vaughn helped me understand something. I don't have anger issues. I have a normal response to abnormal treatment. So I'm done. No more therapy. No more being your scapegoat. No more loans. No more showing up to be disrespected. Mom, you're abandoning your family. Me, I'm protecting my mental health. The same mental health you claimed to care about when you forced me into therapy. Turn to Dr. Henley. By the way, I've filed a complaint with the board about your ethical violations. Enjoy explaining that recording. His face went white. As I packed up my laptop, Nicolette tried one last manipulation. So you're just gonna leave? What about Dad's birthday? I'll be busy, working on my anger, away from all of you. You've been planning this. Me for 2 years. Turns out therapy really did help, just not how you intended. Left them sitting there, Mom crying, no tears though. Dad purple-faced. Nicolette frantically texting. Jasper actually looking at me for once. Dr. Henley trying to figure out how to explain this to his ethics board. It's been 24 hours, phone's been off. Already have 73 missed calls. Finally checked messages. Mom, how dare you embarrass us? Dad, this stunt will cost you your inheritance. You're dead to me. Mom's having a breakdown thanks to you. Not one apology. Not one acknowledgement. Just more blame. But here's the beautiful thing. I don't care anymore. 6 years of therapy taught me, I'm not angry, I'm human. Their reactions aren't my responsibility. Family isn't obligated to access documentation beats gaslighting every time. Dr. Vaughn called this morning. How do you feel? Me, free, vindicated, a little sad. Sad? For the family I wish I had versus the one I got. That's grief, and it's normal, just like your anger was. Moving forward, already blocked them all. Looking into apartments in a new city, keeping all documentation in case they escalate. Continuing therapy with Dr. Vaughn virtually, because I actually find it helpful now. The irony? They were right. Therapy did fix the problem. The problem was them. And somewhere Dr. Henley's trying to explain to the ethics board why he took $31,200 to gaslight a patient for 6 years. Mom wanted me to admit I was better? I am better. Better at recognizing abuse, better at setting boundaries, better at protecting myself. Thanks for the therapy, family. It saved my life. Just not how you planned.
It didn't mean anything. It was just a break. You're overreacting. If you loved me, you'd understand. She said after I discovered she'd slept with my friend during our pause and continued their affair for a month after we reconciled. So I understood and left. Now she's begging for forgiveness and I feel nothing. Hey viewers, before we move on to the video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you want to see more stories like this. Thanks. The smell of garlic and rosemary was supposed to be the only thing filling my head that night. I was following a new recipe, something fancy with chicken and lemon that Chloe had pinned weeks ago. A peace offering. Our break had officially been over for a month, and things felt fragile, but good. We were trying. Her iPad was on the kitchen counter, a sleek black rectangle beside a pile of discarded onion skins. My phone was dead, charging in the bedroom. The recipe was open on her device anyway. It was easier to just use hers. That was my first mistake. A notification slid onto the top of the screen as I was scrolling down to check the oven temperature. Ryan, missed that view. The message preview disappeared as quickly as it had come, leaving a cold, hard knot in my stomach. Ryan. My friend Ryan. Our friend, Ryan. The one who had bought us shots the night Chloe and I had officially called off our break. The one who had clapped me on the back and said, "Welcome back, brother. Knew you guys would figure it out." The pit in my gut told me that message wasn't about a sports game. My thumb hovered over the screen. This was the line. Do you cross it? Do you willingly shatter your own peace? But the chill was already spreading through my veins. The trust was already broken. I just didn't know the shape of the pieces yet. I tapped the message. iMessage opened. The thread with Ryan was long, but the most recent messages were from today. Ryan, you free later? Chloe can't. He's making some big dinner. Trying to be the perfect boyfriend again. Ryan, lame. Missed that view. Chloe, face-blowing kiss soon. I scrolled up. My heart wasn't pounding. It was beating a slow, dull, painful rhythm against my ribs. The messages got flirtier, more explicit. I kept scrolling, back through weeks, my hand feeling numb. Back to the dates that were seared into my memory. Back to the week of our break. It was her idea. A pause. She said she felt smothered, needed space to breathe, to think. I'd been devastated, but tried to be understanding. I gave her the space. I spent that week in a fog of misery, clinging to the hope that it was temporary. One night, my coworker, Sarah, had a few too many drinks at a team happy hour. She'd gotten close, put a hand on my arm, and said, "You're too good to be sitting around sad, Mark." She doesn't know what she's got. I gently removed her hand. I appreciate it, Sarah, but no. I love Chloe. We're just paused. That was loyalty. That was love. Chloe's version of a pause was different. The messages from the first night of our break were right there on the screen. Chloe, he's gone. Staying at his brother's. Ryan, so it's really done? Chloe, for now, winking face, you gonna keep me company? Ryan, on my way. I felt physically ill. I scrolled faster through the mundane messages of their week-long affair, right up to the day she called me, her voice sweet and shaky, asking if we could try again. I'd rushed over, elated, thinking our love had conquered everything. The messages from that very day told a different story. Ryan, so are we done now that you're back with Mark? Chloe, we have to be more careful. I still need you. Ryan, smiling face with horns, I like careful. They had continued. For a month. In my home. In my bed, for all I knew. Every time I'd worked late. Every time she'd gone for drinks with the girls. It was all him. The timer on the oven beeped, a shrill, meaningless sound. The chicken was done. I stood there, staring at the screen, at the evidence of my own idiocy. The carefully chopped herbs, the sliced lemons, the meal I'd made to nurture a relationship that was already rotting from the inside out. It was all a joke. I heard her key in the door. Mark? Something smells amazing, she called out, her voice bright and false. I didn't move. I just waited, the iPad held loosely in my hand. She walked into the kitchen, smiling, dropping her purse on a chair. Her smile faltered when she saw my face. Hey, everything okay? Who's Ryan? I asked. My voice was calm. Too calm. It didn't sound like mine. Her face went through a rapid series of adjustments. Confusion, recognition, fear, and then, finally, defiance. What about him? I saw a message pop up. On your iPad. While I was using your recipe. I held it up. He misses the view. Her eyes widened for a split second before narrowing. You went through my messages? Mark, that's a huge invasion of privacy. I can't believe you'd do that. I almost laughed. The audacity was breathtaking. Yeah, that's the issue here. My invasion of privacy. We were on a break. The words exploded out of her, a pre-rehearsed defense. It was a technicality. It didn't mean anything. It meant enough for you to keep it going for a month after we got back together. I said, my tone still flat, devoid of the rage she was expecting. You lied to my face every single day. You are completely overreacting, she snapped, her voice rising, trying to overpower my quiet with her volume. It was just sex. What? You never thought about being with someone else. God, I needed to get it out of my system. If you loved me, you'd understand that. This is exactly why we needed the break in the first place. Your fucking insecurity. There it was. The masterpiece. She had cheated, lied, and betrayed me, and it was my fault. My insecurity. My failure to understand. I looked at her, really looked at her. The woman I'd loved, the woman I'd defended to my family, the woman I'd pictured a future with. She was a stranger, and an ugly one at that. The fight drained out of me, replaced by a cold, certain clarity. There was nothing here to save. There was no argument to win. You can't reason with a reality that someone is determined to twist. Okay, I said. The word hung in the air between us. It was so small, so simple. It wasn't angry. It wasn't sad. It was just final. Her smug, defensive posture wavered. She was braced for a war, and I'd just surrendered a battlefield she suddenly realized she didn't want to win. Wait, what? Okay, what does that mean? Mark, where are you going? I was already moving. I walked past her, into the living room, and picked up my laptop bag. I went to the hallway closet and grabbed the go bag I used for the gym. Wait, Mark, stop. We need to talk about this. Her voice was laced with panic now. She followed me, her heels clicking on the hardwood. You can't just leave. I stopped at the door, my hand on the knob. I turned and looked at her one last time. The dinner was burning. The apartment smelled like smoke and rosemary. I'll be back for the rest of my things tomorrow while you're at work, I said, my voice still eerily calm. Then I opened the door and walked out. I didn't slam it. I closed it softly, leaving her standing in the ruins of the life she'd blown up, completely silent behind me. The door clicked shut behind me, a soft, final sound that was louder than any slam could have been. I stood in the hallway for a moment, the weight of my laptop bag and gym duffel the only tangible things in a world that had just dissolved into smoke. I could hear nothing from the other side of the door. No screaming, no crying. Just a stunned, furious silence. I had denied her the drama she craved, and in doing so, I had taken all the power. I drove to my brother's apartment in a trance. The city lights blurred past. I replayed the conversation in my head, but not with pain, with a clinical detachment. Her words weren't weapons anymore. They were evidence. Evidence of her character. You're overreacting. It was just a break. Your insecurity. Each phrase was a bullet I had calmly stepped around. My brother, Ben, opened the door. He took one look at my face and the bag in my hand, and didn't ask stupid questions. Couch is yours, he said, stepping aside. You want a beer? Yeah, I said, my voice rough. Yeah, I do. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I sat on his couch, drank the beer, and told him the facts in a monotone. Chloe slept with Ryan during our break. Kept seeing him after we got back together. I found out. I left. Ben stared at me, his face a storm of anger he knew I couldn't feel yet. That son of a bitch. Both of them. What do you need? To not go back there while she's home tomorrow, I said. I need to get my stuff. I'll drive you, he said instantly. We'll get it done in an hour. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Then again, and again, a flurry of texts lit up the screen. Chloe, you can't just walk out like that. Chloe, we need to talk about this like adults. Chloe, you're being so immature. Chloe, are you really just going to ignore me? After everything? I didn't read them all. I went into my settings, found her name, and blocked her number. Then I blocked her on WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook, everything. It wasn't an act of anger. It was administrative, like closing accounts for a business that had declared bankruptcy. The silence that followed was the most peaceful sound I'd heard in months. The next day, with Ben as a stoic, silent witness, I emptied my half of the life Chloe and I had built. It was surgical. Clothes, books, my vinyl collection, my toolbox. I left anything that held a memory of us. The framed photos, the silly mugs from vacations, the garish throw pillow she loved. I was carving my own shape out of the tumor that had been our relationship. I moved into a short-term lease apartment, a bland, beige box that smelled of clean carpet and nothing else. It was perfect. It held no ghosts. The first week was the hardest, but not in the way I expected. The pain wasn't a sharp stab. It was a deep, bone-aching numbness. I'd go to work, do my job, come home, and stare at the wall. I didn't have the energy for anything else. I was detoxing. I didn't talk about it. When mutual friends reached out with a hesitant, "Hey, are you okay?" Chloe said, "You guys." I'd shut it down. "We broke up. It's for the best. I don't really want to talk about it." I refused to give them her narrative. I started running, punishing miles along the river, where the rhythm of my feet on the pavement and the burn in my lungs drowned out the noise in my head. I'd come home exhausted, shower, and sleep a dreamless sleep. The clarity came slowly. In the quiet, I stopped hearing her voice telling me I was insecure. I started hearing my own, and my voice was calm. It said, "You were not insecure. You were betrayed. You were not lacking. You were loyal." Her actions are not a reflection of your worth, but of her own. The numbness began to thaw, not back into sadness, but into a solid, unshakable resolve. I was building a new life, brick by brick, and the foundation was made of self-respect. The news trickled in through the grapevine, from friends who were finally seeing the truth and felt guilty for initially believing her "he's just being insecure" spin. It started at a party I wasn't at. Mike, a good guy from our wider circle, told Ben about it later, his voice laced with disgust. Ryan, emboldened by his conquest and a few too many beers, was holding court by the keg. Mike overheard him bragging. "Yeah, man, it was too easy," Ryan slurred to a captive, uncomfortable audience. The second she said they were on a break, she was blowing up my phone. Couldn't get enough of it. Guess reliable Mark wasn't giving her what she needed. He laughed, a crude, ugly sound. Ditched Old Faithful for a real man. She's a wild one, I'll give her that. He didn't just imply they were together during the break. He boasted about the month after, too. He painted her as desperate, easy, and disloyal. He wasn't painting himself in a great light either, but he was too stupid and arrogant to see it. The mutual friends who heard it were horrified. They finally understood why I'd vanished. It wasn't insecurity, it was dignity. The women in the group, especially, were livid. They felt used, Chloe had cried on their shoulders about our rough patch, all while secretly sleeping with my friend. The fallout was swift and brutal. The friend group splintered. Most sided with me, not because I'd asked them to, but because Ryan's bragging and Chloe's deception were indefensible. She and Ryan were toxic pariahs. Their passionate affair imploded under the weight of reality. Without the secrecy and the illicit thrill, they had nothing. Ryan, having achieved his conquest, got bored and dropped her. He was already hitting on another girl in the group by the following weekend. Chloe was left completely alone, isolated, humiliated. The person she'd blown up her life for was a bragging jackass, and the person she'd left behind had quietly built a fortress of a life without her in it. Karma didn't need my help. It just needed the truth. And Ryan, in his infinite arrogance, had delivered it on a silver platter. The first attempt was a text from an unknown number. It came through on a Saturday morning while I was cleaning my apartment. Unknown number. Mark, it's Chloe. I'm so sorry. Ryan is a liar. He's twisting everything to make himself look good. Can we please talk? I miss you. I read it. I felt nothing. No anger. No sadness. No flicker of hope. It was just words on a screen from a stranger. I deleted the message and blocked the number. The second attempt came through a more direct channel. Her best friend, Jessica, the ringleader of her toxic squad. My phone rang that evening. Mark? Hey, it's Jessica. Her voice was artificially bright, laced with a condescending tone she'd always used with me. Jessica, I said, my voice flat. Look, I'm calling because I'm worried about Chloe. She's a mess. Like, a total wreck. I know things ended badly, but how could you just abandon her like that? It's been months, and you're just gone. It's cruel. I took a slow breath. Jessica, I repeated, my tone firmer, leaving no room for argument. My relationship with Chloe is over. It's not up for discussion. Please do not call me again. I didn't wait for her sputtered response. I hung up. The third attempt was the most desperate. A voicemail. Her voice was raw, choked with sobs, the carefully constructed facade completely gone. Mark? Oh God, Mark, please pick up. Everyone hates me. Ryan told everyone these horrible lies. They all think I'm some kind of slut. You have to talk to me. You have to tell them it wasn't like that. You're the only one who knows the truth. You're the only one who can fix this. Please. I have no one else. I'm so sorry. Please. The message ended with a broken sob. I stood in my clean, quiet kitchen and listened to the entire thing. I listened to the tears that weren't for me, but for her ruined reputation. The apology that wasn't for what she did, but for getting caught. I felt a distant pang of pity, quickly smothered by overwhelming indifference. I deleted the voicemail. I did not engage. The ghost of the man I was would have rushed to save her. The man I had become simply did not care. Months later, Ben convinced me to go to a barbecue at our friend Dave's place. The crew will be there, he said. The real crew. The ones who know what happened. It's time, man. You can't become a hermit. Reluctantly, I agreed. I'd been focusing on work, on my running, on my peace. The thought of socializing felt foreign, but maybe Ben was right. I was standing with Dave and a few others by the grill, laughing at a stupid story about a work trip, a cold beer in my hand. I was okay. I was actually having a good time. Then I saw her. Chloe looked diminished. She hovered near the edge of the patio, her shoulders hunched. She looked tired. She scanned the crowd, her eyes landing on me. They widened, and she started making a beeline straight for me, a determined, desperate look on her face. The conversation around me died down. Dave gave me a sympathetic glance. Mark, she said, her voice tight. Hi. Can we talk? Just for 5 minutes. Please. I took a slow sip of my beer. Chloe, I acknowledged. She launched in, the words tumbling out in a rushed whisper. I've been through hell. You have no idea. Everyone turned on me. Ryan, he destroyed my life. He told everyone these stories. I looked at her, really looked. I saw the desperation, the need for validation, for absolution. I felt nothing. That's too bad, I said, my voice calm and even. She flinched like I'd slapped her. She expected anger, sympathy, something. Not this void. Aren't you going to say anything? She pleaded, her voice cracking. Aren't you sorry for me? We were together for 4 years. Doesn't that mean anything to you? You told me I was overreacting, I said, mirroring her words back to her with deadly precision. You told me it didn't mean anything. You told me if I loved you, I'd understand. So I understood. I paused, letting the weight of my indifference settle on her. I understood that we wanted different things. You wanted a break. I gave you a permanent one. Her face crumpled, then hardened. The mask of the victim slipped, revealing the anger beneath. The true colors. This isn't you, she hissed, her voice rising, drawing glances from people nearby. You're not this cold. Stop being an asshole and just forgive me. I said I was sorry. I looked at her, this angry, humiliated, irrelevant woman, and for the first time, a faint, pitying smile touched my lips. It wasn't a happy smile. It was the smile you give a toddler having a tantrum. Chloe, I said, my voice so quiet she had to lean in to hear it, cementing her defeat. You're not sorry you did it. You're sorry you got caught. You're sorry there were consequences. I took a final, slow sip of my beer and looked around at the friends, the life, the peace I had without her. And honestly, I said, meeting her eyes one last time, I'm not even sorry anymore. I'm just indifferent. Have a good life. I turned my back on her. I turned back to Dave and the grill. Sorry about that, man. So, where did you find this marinade recipe? The conversation slowly picked up again around me. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. I heard the sharp, choked sound she made. I heard her footsteps retreating, quick and shaky, across the patio. I didn't watch her leave. She was already gone. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. What do you think about this story? Share it in the comments.
I'm Cherry, 32 years old, and the responsible middle child my mother always counted on. When she died last month, I never imagined my family would turn against me so viciously. Today my father pointed his finger in my face and shouted those words that still echo in my mind. Return the $98,000 or don't come back. My sister Amanda twisted the knife further. You took Mom's money. We all know. Little did they realize what was about to happen when I placed those teller slips on the counter. Before I tell you how their faces went pale, let me know where you're watching from, and hit that subscribe button if you've ever had to stand up to family who tried to bully you into silence. Growing up in our suburban Pittsburgh home, our family roles were clearly defined. My father Harold was the stern businessman who built his construction company from nothing, expecting perfection and rarely offering praise. My older sister Amanda was Daddy's obvious favorite. She could charm him into anything with her calculated smiles and strategic compliments. My younger brother Jackson was the family troublemaker, constantly in scrapes, but somehow always forgiven after a flash of his dimpled grin. Then there was my mother Elaine, the warm heart of our home and the peacekeeper who smoothed over my father's harsh edges. Mom was the one who attended every school event, remembered every birthday, and created those small moments of joy that made our house feel like a home. When Dad would rage about something insignificant, Mom would quietly guide us to another room and whisper, "Your father works hard to provide for us. He shows his love differently." Our childhood was marked by these contrasting parenting styles. Dad approached parenting like business management, results-oriented with clear expectations and consequences. Mom parented through connection and understanding. When I brought home straight, as Dad would nod and say, "That's what I expect," Mom would hug me tight and whisper, "I'm so proud of who you are." Everything changed 2 years ago when Mom was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. The doctor's words fell like bombs in that sterile hospital room, 6 months to a year with treatment. Dad immediately shifted into problem-solving mode, researching specialists and experimental treatments. Amanda cried dramatically in the hospital hallway, but had an important meeting she couldn't miss. Jackson showed up late, having missed the doctor's explanation entirely. I was the one who sat beside Mom as she absorbed the news, who held her hand when she decided against experimental treatments, who promised to be there every step of the way. And I was. Despite my full-time job as a loan officer at Pittsburgh Community Bank, I became Mom's primary caregiver. I scheduled and drove her to appointments, managed her medications, researched palliative care options, and spent nights on the uncomfortable recliner in her hospital room. Amanda rarely visited despite living just 20 minutes away. There was always some excuse. work deadlines, her kids' activities, or social obligations she couldn't miss. She'd sweep in occasionally with expensive flowers and loud declarations of love, but never stayed long enough to empty a bedpan or help Mom shower. Jackson showed up more frequently but unpredictably. He'd appear with Mom's favorite ice cream and make her laugh with outrageous stories, but couldn't be counted on for the daily grind of care. He'd promise to take the night shift, then text that his car broke down or he caught a stomach bug. Dad retreated further into work, as Mom declined. He paid for the best care money could buy but couldn't bear to witness her physical deterioration. When he did visit, he'd talk about business or the news, anything but the reality of what was happening. "You'll beat this, Elaine," he'd say, even as she grew thinner and weaker before our eyes. The 18 months that followed were a blur of medical jargon, insurance paperwork, and precious moments with Mom. Despite the doctor's initial timeline, Mom fought hard, enduring rounds of chemo that left her depleted but determined. "I'm not ready to leave my children yet," she told me, during one particularly rough night. As her caregiver, I saw sides of my mother that no one else did. In the quiet hours of early morning, when pain kept her awake, she would share stories from her youth, ambitions she'd set aside, and regrets she'd carried silently. "I always wanted to open a small bookstore," she confessed one night. "Your father thought it was impractical." During her final weeks, Mom became increasingly intentional about our conversations. She'd ask me to retrieve specific items from her closet, old photo albums, jewelry boxes, and finally a small leather-bound journal I'd never seen before. "When the time is right, you'll understand," she said, her once strong hands now fragile, as she pressed the journal into mine. On her last day, by some cruel coincidence, I was the only one there. Dad was closing an important deal out of town. Amanda had taken her kids to a soccer tournament. Jackson's phone went straight to voicemail. I sat holding Mom's hand as her breathing slowed, telling her it was okay to rest now. "You've done enough for everyone," I whispered. "We'll be okay." She squeezed my hand one final time before slipping away, taking a piece of my heart with her. The funeral was held at the Presbyterian Church, where Mom had volunteered for years. The sanctuary overflowed with people whose lives she'd touched. Neighbors she'd helped through tough times, students she'd tutored, and friends who considered her family. Each family member handled their grief differently, in ways that reflected their relationship with Mom. Dad approached the funeral like a business event he needed to manage perfectly. He coordinated with the funeral director, approved the program, and greeted mourners with stoic handshakes. His eyes remained dry, his back straight, as he delivered a eulogy that praised Mom's role as a supportive wife who understood the sacrifices necessary for success. Amanda's grief was theatrical and public. She sobbed loudly during the service, requiring multiple attendants to comfort her. Between dramatic crying jags, I caught her checking her reflection in her compact mirror and answering business emails on her phone. When no one was watching, her expression would shift to impatience, checking her watch repeatedly. Jackson's emotional response was erratic but genuine. He'd stand stone-faced one moment, then excuse himself when waves of grief overwhelmed him. He delivered a heartfelt, rambling eulogy that made everyone laugh and cry, capturing Mom's spirit in a way Dad's formal speech couldn't. I moved through the day in a fog, managing details and supporting others, while my own grief remained tightly contained. There would be time for my tears later in private, as Mom would have preferred. 1 week after we laid Mom to rest, we gathered in the wood-paneled office of Walter Green, the family attorney, for the reading of her will. The tension in the room was palpable as we settled into leather chairs arranged before his imposing desk. Elaine was very specific about her wishes. Walter began adjusting his reading glasses. "The family home goes to Harold, of course. Her personal savings are to be divided equally among the 4 of you." Dad nodded, as if this confirmation of his continued control was expected. Then Walter cleared his throat and continued. "However, Elaine named Sherry as the executor of the estate, with full authority to distribute assets according to the will's specifications." Dad's head snapped up, his expression darkening. "Excuse me, I'm her husband. That should be my role." Walter continued calmly. "Elaine was quite insistent on this point, Harold." He turned a page. Additionally, Elaine's entire jewelry collection, including family heirlooms, is bequeathed specifically to Cherry. Amanda made a choked sound beside me. That's not fair, I'm the oldest daughter. Those pieces should be mine to pass down to my daughters. Walter peered at her over his glasses. Elaine noted that Cherry always appreciated the stories behind each piece, not just their monetary value. The meeting continued with specific bequests. Dad received Mom's shares in his company. Amanda got the vacation property in the Poconos. Jackson was given Mom's art collection and vintage car. The distribution was surprisingly equal in value, if not in sentiment. As executor, I received copies of all financial documents, bank statements, and property deeds. I promised everyone complete transparency throughout the process. I'll create a shared folder with all documentation, so everyone can see every transaction I offered, trying to ease the growing tension. Dad huffed. Just make sure nothing disappears in the process. That night, reviewing the financial documents, I discovered something unexpected: a separate bank account in Mom's name, only containing $98,000. This account wasn't mentioned specifically in the will, which meant it would fall under the general assets to be divided. But something about it felt intentional, especially given our recent private conversations. The following day, I visited Mom's bank to gather more information. The account had been opened 15 years ago with small deposits made regularly. The bank manager remembered Mom well. She'd come in personally each month, never used electronic transfers, always said she preferred the personal touch. As I drove home, a memory surfaced of Mom asking me to handle something important after she was gone. There are things that matter that the others might not understand, she'd said, squeezing my hand. I trust you to do what's right. The initial family meeting about the estate went smoothly enough on the surface. I presented organized spreadsheets detailing assets, outstanding bills, and the proposed distribution timeline. But underneath the civility, I felt currents of suspicion, particularly from Dad and Amanda. What's this unmarked account? Dad asked, pointing to the $98,000 account listed on the asset sheet. It appears to be Mom's personal savings, I explained. I'm still gathering information about its purpose. Convenient that you're just now mentioning it, Amanda murmured, exchanging glances with Dad. I've listed every account and asset Mom had. I responded evenly. As promised, complete transparency. As the days passed, and I continued sorting through Mom's belongings, the whispers behind my back grew louder. Amanda questioned every decision I made as executor. Dad demanded daily updates. Even Jackson started looking at me with uncertainty in his eyes. The $98,000 had become a focal point of unspoken accusations, and I still didn't understand its purpose myself. 3 weeks after the funeral, while sorting through Mom's closet, I found a hidden compartment in her jewelry box, the same one she'd asked me to retrieve during her final days. Inside was the leather journal she'd given me, and a sealed envelope with my name written in her familiar handwriting. My hands trembled as I carried these items to her reading chair by the window, the late afternoon sun creating a warm spotlight on the worn pages as I began to read. The journal dated back 20 years and revealed a side of my mother I'd never fully understood. In careful private entries, Mom documented Dad's complete financial control throughout their marriage. Despite her contributions to the household, she never had access to their joint accounts without explanation and approval. Harold rejected my request for a personal account again today. One entry from 18 years ago read, "He says a joint account is simpler but then questions every purchase I make. The children needed new winter clothes, but he said last year's should still fit. I purchased them anyway and told him they were on sale." Another entry detailed the beginning of her secret saving. "Started my fund today, just $20 from the grocery money." Harold never checks the receipts as long as dinner is on the table. $20 each week will add up eventually. Someday this might make a difference. Page after page revealed Mom's quiet rebellion, small amounts squirreled away from household funds, birthday money from relatives she pretended was less than gifted, occasional substitute teaching jobs Dad didn't know about. All meticulously tracked, all funneled into her secret account. but it was the purpose of these savings that left me breathless. Mom had been planning for years to donate this money to the East Side Women's Shelter, a place that helps survivors of domestic abuse rebuild their lives. The final journal entries revealed why this cause mattered so deeply to her. "Before I met Harold, there was Robert," she wrote. "My college boyfriend who first charmed, then controlled, then hurt me. When I finally found the courage to leave the shelter, took me in, kept me safe, helped me restart. Without them, I might have gone back. Without them, I might not have survived to meet Harold, to have my beautiful children." The envelope contained a letter addressed to me dated just 2 months before her death. "My dearest Cherry, if you're reading this, I finally shared my complete truth with you. The $98,000 I've saved represents small acts of independence over 20 years of marriage. Harold is not an evil man, but his need for control, especially financial control, has been the silent struggle of my marriage. My wish is for this money to go to the East Side Women's Shelter. They saved my life once, and I want to help them save others. I didn't include this in my will because Harold would fight it and Amanda would support him without understanding. As my executor and the child who truly sees me, I trust you to honor this final wish. The shelter needs a new security system and counseling program. This money can provide both. I'm sorry to place this burden on you, but I've watched you stand up for what's right your whole life, even when it was difficult. You have a strength I found too late. All my love, Mom." I sat in stunned silence as pieces of my childhood rearranged themselves with this new understanding. Dad's insistence on approving every purchase, Mom's careful accounting of household expenses, her strange habit of hiding small amounts of cash throughout the house for emergencies, the way she never bought anything for herself without justifying it repeatedly. There were other signs I'd missed: Mom declining lunch with friends because Harold thinks it's unnecessary, Mom asking Dad's permission before visiting her sister, Mom carefully planning meals around Dad's preferences only, Mom never having her own credit card despite working part-time for years before we were born. Not physical abuse, but control. Subtle, pervasive, and now painfully obvious. My tears flowed freely as I realized how much Mom had hidden behind her peaceful smile, how hard she'd worked to shield us from this reality, and how much courage it took to build this secret fund dollar by dollar over decades. That night, I hardly slept, weighing my responsibilities as executor against my promise to honor Mom's wishes. Legally, the money belonged to the estate and should be divided. But morally and emotionally, this was Mom's independent choice after a lifetime of having so few. The next morning, I went to the bank where I worked and spoke with our trust officer. Using my banking expertise, I carefully documented the transfer process. I would need to move the money soon before the estate accounting was finalized. I made copies of Mom's letter, her journal entries establishing intent, and prepared the necessary paperwork for a donation in Elaine Mitchell's name. The East Side Women's Shelter director, Susan Garrity, wept when I called to explain the donation. "Your mother volunteered here discreetly for years," she revealed. She never shared her story with the other volunteers, but she mentored countless women. She just told them she understood their situation better than they knew. This revelation of Mom's secret volunteer work, hours she'd claimed to be at book club or grocery shopping, completed the picture of her hidden life. She hadn't just been saving money. She'd been quietly working to help women like her younger self escape situations like the one she'd normalized. I completed the transfer documentation, ensuring everything was legally processed while preparing the general estate paperwork for the family. The donation would be made next week, fulfilling Mom's wish before the estate accounting was presented to the family. Though my stomach knotted with anxiety about their reaction, I felt a profound peace, knowing I was honoring Mom's true legacy, not just as our mother, but as a quiet warrior for women's independence and safety. The text message from Dad came on Thursday evening. "Family meeting tomorrow, 7 p.m. My house. Everyone must attend." The formal tone and lack of explanation sent warning signals through my body. Amanda followed up with her own message. "You better not miss this one, Cherry. Time to clear the air." I arrived at Dad's house exactly at 7. a folder of estate documents in hand, prepared to provide updates on the probate process. The atmosphere hit me immediately upon entering, thick with accusation and hostility. Dad sat in his leather armchair posture, rigid, and face set in grim lines. Amanda perched beside him on the sofa, arms crossed and eyes narrowed. Jackson leaned awkwardly against the fireplace mantel, eyes darting between us all, clearly uncomfortable but present. "Sit down, Cherry," Dad commanded, not bothering with a greeting. I took the seat across from him, setting my folder on the coffee table. "I've brought the latest estate updates, if that's what this meeting is about." "Oh, it's about the estate, all right," Amanda said, voice dripping with sarcasm. "Specifically about the money that seems to have disappeared from it." My heart raced, but I kept my expression neutral. "I'm not sure what you mean. All estate assets are accounted for, as you'd see in these reports." Dad leaned forward, eyes cold. "Don't play innocent. The $98,000, Cherry, the account you conveniently discovered after the will reading. That account was part of Mom's personal savings," I began. Amanda interrupted. "Which should be divided equally as part of the estate. Except it's gone." She dramatically produced bank statements, slapping them onto the coffee table. "Dad asked Walter to request these directly from the bank. The account was emptied 3 days ago." "You had no right to transfer that money anywhere," Dad's voice rose. "As executor, you have a fiduciary responsibility to the beneficiaries." "I'm handling the estate exactly as Mom wanted," I said carefully. Dad's face reddened as he stood, pointing his finger directly at my face. "Return the $98,000 or don't come back to this family." Amanda moved beside him, her voice cutting. "You took Mom's money. We all know it. You think just because you played nursemaid at the end, you deserve more. While we were all maintaining our lives and careers, you were positioning yourself to take advantage." The accusation stole my breath. "That's not what happened." "No," Amanda continued. "You were alone with her constantly those last months. Who knows what you convinced her to do? What you had her sign when she was medicated and vulnerable?" Jackson shifted uncomfortably. "Guys, maybe we should calm down and let Cherry explain." "There's nothing to explain," Dad thundered. "The money is gone, transferred out on her authorization. If it's not returned to the estate immediately, I'll have Walter pursue legal action for breach of fiduciary duty. I'm sure your bank would be interested to hear about their loan officer misappropriating funds." The threat to my professional reputation landed like a physical blow. Amanda saw my shock and pressed her advantage. "Mom would be so disappointed in you, Cherry. She trusted you, and this is how you repay that trust, by stealing from your own family." Each word felt like a knife. The people who should know me best somehow thought me capable of theft and manipulation. The family I'd sacrificed so much for over the past 2 years now viewed me as an opportunist who had exploited a dying woman. "You've always been jealous of what Dad and I have," Amanda continued, twisting deeper. "Always trying to prove you're somehow better, more caring, more deserving. Well, this little stunt proves exactly what kind of person you really are." Jackson stepped forward. "That's enough, Amanda." But his intervention was half-hearted, his eyes still uncertain when they met mine. "1 week," Dad declared. "You have 1 week to return every penny to the estate account, or I'll pursue every legal avenue available. And don't bother coming to Sunday dinner until this is resolved." The finality in his voice broke something in me. Tears welled as I gathered my untouched folder and stood. "You have no idea what Mom actually wanted. None of you do." "Oh, spare us the martyrdom," Amanda spat. "Just fix what you've done." I walked out without another word, the weight of their accusations crushing my chest. In my car parked at the curb of my childhood home, I finally let the tears come. Not just for their cruelty, but for Mom, who had lived with this controlling dynamic for decades, who had carved out small spaces of independence through secret acts of resistance, who had trusted me with her truth. For the first time, I truly understood why that $98,000 existed at all. Not as savings, but as reclamation of power. And now I had to decide whether to reveal Mom's secret past, to defend myself, or protect her privacy at the cost of my family relationships and possibly my career. After the confrontation, I drove aimlessly through Pittsburgh's evening streets, the city lights blurring through my tears. I eventually parked at Frick Park, Mom's favorite place to walk and think. Sitting on a bench overlooking the dusky pond, I let the full weight of my situation settle over me. My options seemed impossible. Return the money and betray Mom's final wish. Keep the money where it was and lose my family, possibly my job. Reveal Mom's past trauma and private struggles to defend myself, exposing secrets she'd kept for decades. A memory surfaced of Mom sitting with me in this very park after my college boyfriend cheated on me. Sometimes the hardest choice is the right one, she'd said. And sometimes the people who should support you won't understand your choices. That doesn't make them wrong. Had she been speaking from experience even then? How many moments of wisdom had actually been Mom preparing me for this very conflict? I recalled her making me promise during one of our last lucid conversations. When pressure comes, be stronger than I was. Don't let them change what you know is right. I'd agreed without understanding the full meaning. Now it felt prophetic. The next morning, I called Walter Green's office and requested a private meeting. His secretary, hearing the urgency in my voice, squeezed me in before his first appointment. "Walter, I need to understand my legal position as executor," I began after declining coffee. "If I followed the deceased's explicit written instructions that weren't included in the official will, where do I stand?" Walter removed his glasses, suddenly looking very serious. "Cherry, has something happened with Elaine's estate?" I slid Mom's letter across his desk. Mom left this for me, and a journal explaining her wishes for the $98,000 from her personal account. Walter read silently, his expression softening. When he finished, he sighed deeply. "Legally speaking, without this being in the will, you're in a gray area. As executor, you have some discretion in interpreting the deceased's intentions, but the other beneficiaries could challenge your decision." "And they will," I said quietly. However, Walter continued, "Elaine's letter is quite clear. With this documentation of intent, you could likely defend your actions if challenged in court. But Cherry," he leaned forward, "this would mean making your mother's private history public record. Are you prepared for that?" The question hit me hard. Was I willing to expose Mom's past abuse and private struggles to protect myself? Was that truly honoring her? "What would happen if they pursue legal action?" I asked. "Worst case, you could be removed as executor, required to reimburse the estate, and potentially face professional consequences given your banking position. Best case, the court upholds your decision based on Elaine's documented wishes, but the family relationships are irreparably damaged." I thanked Walter for his honesty and left with even more to consider. The legal jeopardy was real, but somehow less important than the moral dilemma I faced. That afternoon, I visited the Eastside Women's Shelter, where Mom's donation had already been received. The building was modest, but well-maintained, with security cameras at every entrance, the first improvement made with Mom's gift. Susan Garrity, the director, welcomed me warmly. "I still can't believe Elaine's generosity. This donation will transform our services." She gave me a tour, introducing me to staff and a few residents comfortable with meeting visitors. In Susan's office, covered with thank you drawings from children who had stayed there, I finally asked the question burning inside me. Did my mother ever talk about her experience, about why she volunteered? Susan studied me carefully before responding. "Your mother was intensely private about her past, but she was our most dedicated volunteer for crisis counseling. Women who'd just arrived terrified and doubting their decision to leave, Elaine could reach them when no one else could." She paused. She had a way of saying, "I understand that they believed," because it was true. As Susan shared stories of women my mother had helped, women who had escaped with children in the middle of the night, women who had rebuilt their lives from nothing, I felt Mom's presence more strongly than I had since her death. This was her true legacy, not the jewelry or money or property being divided among us. I met privately with a young mother named Tara, who clutched her sleeping toddler while telling me how Miss Elaine had sat with her through panic attacks, helped her apply for jobs, and babysat her son during interviews. She told me that leaving doesn't make you weak, It makes you brave. That it's never too late to start over. Tara's eyes filled with tears. I wouldn't have made it without her. Driving home, I realized Mom had created the life she truly wanted in these secret hours away from Dad's control. She'd transformed her pain into purpose, her trauma into healing for others, and she'd trusted me to ensure this work continued after she was gone. The memory of another conversation surfaced. Mom in her hospital bed, stronger days when clarity broke through the medication fog. There's steel in you, Cherry. You hide it better than I did, but it's there. When the moment comes to use it, don't hesitate. That night, I spread everything on my dining room table. Mom's journal, her letter, the bank documents, the shelter's grateful acknowledgement of the donation, and Walter's legal assessment. I read and reread until the path forward crystallized with perfect clarity. I wouldn't return the money. I wouldn't betray Mom's wishes. But I also wouldn't expose her secrets without necessity. There had to be a way to honor both her intent and her privacy. With renewed purpose, I began preparing for another confrontation. I made copies of the bank withdrawal slips, transaction records, and the shelter's official receipt. I drafted a statement explaining my actions as executor without revealing Mom's personal history. I rehearsed responses to every accusation I anticipated. The hardest part was accepting that I might lose my family over this. But as dawn broke over my sleepless night of preparation, I realized something profound. I was already losing the illusion of family, not the reality of it. A true family wouldn't have ambushed me with accusations. A true father wouldn't have threatened my livelihood. A true sister wouldn't have twisted my caregiving into opportunism. Maybe like Mom, I needed to redefine family on my own terms. Maybe honoring her final wish was also about honoring the strength she'd tried to cultivate in me. The money was already where it belonged. Now I just needed to face the consequences with the same quiet courage Mom had shown throughout her life. 2 days before Dad's deadline expired, I texted everyone family meeting regarding estate matters. Tomorrow, 6 p.m. My apartment. All must attend. I ignored the flurry of responses demanding we meet at Dad's house instead. This confrontation would happen on my terms and my space. I spent hours preparing my apartment, not just cleaning but strategically arranging the evidence I'd gathered. The dining table became command central, with folders labeled for each family member. I prepared coffee and Mom's favorite lemon cookies, not as a peace offering but as a reminder of whose legacy we were really discussing. At exactly 6, the doorbell rang. They arrived together, a united front. Dad's face was thunderous, Amanda's triumphant, assuming I'd capitulated. Only Jackson looked uncertain, offering a small apologetic smile as they filed into my living room. "I hope this meeting means you've come to your senses," Dad began, without greeting remaining standing while everyone else Saturday. "I've made a decision," I replied calmly. "But first I'd like everyone to sit at the dining table. There are things you need to see." "We don't need to see anything except a transfer confirmation returning the money to the estate," Amanda snapped. "Either sit down and hear me out, or leave now and contact me through Walter," I said, surprising even myself with my steady tone. "Those are the only options today." Something in my demeanor must have registered, because they exchanged glances before reluctantly moving to the dining table where their folders waited. Dad took the head position out of habit. I let him have it. Before we begin, I want to be clear I have not taken a single penny from Mom's estate for personal use. I stated, looking each of them in the eye. The $98,000 has been donated to the East Side Women's Shelter in accordance with Mom's explicit written instructions to me. Written where Dad demanded, not in her will. In this letter, I said, sliding copies across the table, which she left with specific instructions for the money she had independently saved for 20 years. They read in confused silence. Amanda spoke first, scoffing. "This proves nothing. You could have written this yourself." "Which is why I also have these." I continued, removing Mom's journal from a protective sleeve. Mom's private journals documenting how and why she saved this money over 2 decades. I didn't hand over the journal itself, but instead provided selected copies of entries showing Mom's long-term intention for the donation, careful to exclude the most personal details of her past trauma. "This is ridiculous," Dad blustered, though, with less certainty. "Elaine never kept secrets from me." "Didn't she?" I asked quietly. "Dad, when's the last time Mom made a purchase over $50 without discussing it with you first?" His silence was telling. "Did you know Mom volunteered at this shelter for 15 years? Or that she had a reason deeply personal to her for supporting their work?" Amanda interrupted. "Stop trying to distract from what you did. Even if Mom wanted this donation, which I don't believe for a second, you had no legal right to make it without consulting us. The money belongs to the estate." "You're right that I took a legal risk," I acknowledged. "But I chose to honor Mom's wishes over legal technicalities." "Well, your choice has consequences," Dad said, finding his footing again. "Walter will file a complaint tomorrow." "Before you do that," I said, reaching for the final folder, "you should understand exactly what making this legal would mean." I placed the bank teller slips and donation receipt on the table with deliberate slowness. These confirm that every penny went to the shelter exactly as Mom instructed. Nothing to my account or for my benefit. Then came the most difficult part. I slid forward a sealed envelope. This contains the full, unredacted journal entries explaining why this shelter mattered so personally to Mom. If we go to court, this becomes public record. Every detail about Mom's life before she met you, Dad becomes available for anyone to read. Their faces began to pale as the implications registered. Mom kept certain parts of her life private for her own reasons. I've respected that privacy in handling this donation. The question is whether you're willing to expose her most personal trauma to win a legal battle over money none of us actually needs. The silence stretched uncomfortably. Jackson broke it first. "Cherry's right. Mom chose her as executor for a reason. If Mom wanted this donation made, we should respect that regardless of the legal technicalities." Amanda's eyes narrowed. "Easy for you to say. Your art collection is worth more than your share of this money would have been." "This isn't about the money," I finally raised my voice. "This is about respecting Mom's one independent choice after a lifetime of having so few. This is about honoring what mattered to her, not what benefits us." Dad stared at the receipt, his expression unreadable. "The East Side Women's Shelter," he said slowly. "Elaine mentioned this place sometimes, said they did good work. I never thought much about it." "They help women escape abusive situations," I said carefully. "They provide safety counseling, job training, childcare, everything needed to start over." "And Elaine wanted her money to go there." Dad stated not a question this time. "Yes, for reasons that were deeply meaningful to her." Dad looked at the sealed envelope containing the full truth, then at me. Something shifted in his eyes, not understanding exactly, but perhaps the beginning of doubt about his certainty. "I won't return the money," I said firmly. "I've fulfilled my duty as executor according to Mom's explicit instructions. If you want to challenge that legally, that's your choice. But understand what that choice reveals about your priorities compared to Mom's." Amanda started to argue, but Dad raised his hand, silencing her. The gesture itself, so controlling, so unconsciously dominating, seemed to hang in the air between us, a living demonstration of the dynamic Mom had navigated for decades. "You're asking us to trust you, without full explanation," Dad said finally. "I'm asking you to trust Mom," I corrected, "to believe she had her reasons even if she didn't share them with you." The moment balanced on a knife's edge, their need to control battling with the growing realization that pushing further would reveal secrets perhaps better left undisturbed. I watched the calculation happen behind their eyes, the weighing of $98,000 against potential public revelations about our family. Jackson spoke into the tense silence. "I trust you, Cherry, and I trusted Mom." His simple statement broke something in the room. Amanda's perfect posture slumped slightly. Dad's authoritative presence diminished. The united front against me developed its first significant crack. "The money is already gone," I said quietly. "The shelter's security system is being upgraded as we speak. The counseling program Mom wanted will start next month. Her legacy is already in motion. The only question now is whether we tear our family apart, fighting over her wish, or find a way to accept it and move forward. Their faces had gone completely pale now, the realization settling in that I wouldn't be bullied or threatened into compliance. That for the first time in our family history, Dad's authority and Amanda's manipulation weren't going to win the day. That Mom from beyond the grave had finally found her voice through mine. The days following our confrontation brought an uneasy peace. Dad withdrew his threat of legal action without explicit acknowledgement of defeat. Amanda maintained chilly distance, but stopped making accusatory comments. Jackson called regularly, our relationship actually strengthening through the conflict. 2 weeks later, Dad asked me to meet him for coffee at the small cafe where he used to take Mom on Sunday mornings. He looked older somehow, diminished, stirring his black coffee endlessly before speaking. "I've been thinking about your mother," he began awkwardly. "About things I might have overlooked." I waited, giving him space to find his words. "I always thought I was protecting her by handling our finances, that it was my responsibility as her husband to make those decisions." He stared into his cup. It never occurred to me that she might see it differently. It wasn't an apology exactly, but from Dad, this represented significant reflection. We talked for nearly 2 hours, circling difficult subjects without quite addressing them directly. Dad shared memories of Mom I'd never heard, glimpses of their early relationship before control calcified into habit. I offered stories from Mom's final months that he'd missed by keeping his distance, her courage, her humor, even in pain, her concern for everyone but herself. "She chose you as executor because you see people clearly," he said finally. "I've never had that gift." As he paid the bill, he added awkwardly, "The shelter. It's a good cause. Your mother would be pleased." Amanda took longer to thaw. Her pride wouldn't allow direct reconciliation, but she eventually invited me to her daughter's dance recital, an olive branch in the form of a text message with date, time, and venue, nothing more. I attended, applauded sincerely, and brought flowers for my niece. In the lobby afterward, Amanda and I managed polite conversation that didn't touch on Mom or money or the past. "They're building a new counseling wing," I mentioned carefully, as we watched the girls compare costumes at the shelter. Amanda stiffened slightly before responding, "Good. That's good." Then after a pause, "Will they name it after Mom?" "Yes. The Elaine Mitchell Counseling Center. There's a dedication next month." She nodded once sharply. "Let me know when. The girls have a competition that weekend, but maybe we could stop by." It wasn't forgiveness, but it was acknowledgement, the beginning of a new, more honest relationship built on who we really were, not the roles we'd played in the family structure. Jackson proved to be my strongest ally, calling me the day after our confrontation. "I should have stood up for you sooner," he admitted. "I knew you wouldn't steal from Mom. I just couldn't find my voice until it was almost too late." Mom would understand that better than anyone, I assured him. Together, we sorted through Mom's remaining belongings, sharing memories and discovering new sides to her through her collections and keepsakes. In her sewing basket, we found small notes she'd written to herself. Affirmations, poetry, fragments, quotes about courage. "Your boundaries deserve protection," one read. Another, "Helping others heal heals you." "She was so much more complicated than I realized," Jackson said, holding a worn copy of Their Eyes Were Watching God, filled with Mom's annotations. "I wish I'd known her better." "Me too," I admitted. "I thought I knew her completely, and I still missed so much." The process of grieving Mom transformed as I integrated this new understanding of her life. I mourned not just her death but the constraints of her life, the dreams deferred, the voice muted. Yet I also celebrated her quiet resistance, her secret giving her ability to create meaning despite limitations. I began volunteering at the shelter myself, not in crisis counseling as Mom had done, but offering financial literacy workshops for women establishing independence. Many had never managed their own money, had no knowledge of banking, credit, or financial planning. Teaching them these skills felt like extending Mom's legacy while using my own strengths. 3 months after Mom's death, I started a support group for adult children of controlling parents, creating the space for conversations I wished I'd had years earlier. We met weekly in a community center, sharing strategies for establishing boundaries, recognizing manipulation, and breaking generational patterns. Each meeting ended with Mom's favorite quote, "Understanding your past doesn't require repeating it." The dedication ceremony for the Elaine Mitchell Counseling Center happened on a brilliant October day, exactly 6 months after Mom's passing. The shelter was transformed with the security upgrades and renovations her donation had funded. A simple plaque beside the entrance read, "Where courage finds safety and new beginnings become possible." Susan gave a moving speech about Mom's years of service. Women Mom had helped shared stories of her impact on their lives. I spoke briefly about Mom's belief in second chances and new beginnings. As I finished my remarks, movement at the back of the gathered crowd caught my eye. Dad stood there uncomfortable in his suit but present, making this one gesture of respect. Our eyes met briefly before he nodded once and slipped away. He hadn't come to participate but to witness, and somehow that felt right. Amanda didn't attend but sent a flower arrangement with a card reading simply, "She would be proud." Jackson stayed through the entire ceremony, helping serve refreshments and connecting warmly with the staff who had known Mom. In the years since that confrontation in my dining room, our family has settled into a new normal, more distant in some ways but more authentic. Dad calls weekly, our conversations careful but increasingly genuine. Amanda and I maintain polite contact centered around the children. Jackson and I have grown closer than ever, united in our efforts to understand our family patterns without perpetuating them. The $98,000 that nearly tore us apart has now helped dozens of women and children start new lives. Mom's secret rebellion became a public legacy that will outlive us all. The money that represented her quiet reclamation of power now empowers others to make the brave choices she made too late in her own life. I've learned that true inheritance isn't measured in dollars or property or possessions. Mom left me something far more valuable than money. She left me her courage, her integrity, and finally her truth. She trusted me not just with her assets but with her story, believing I would honor both appropriately. Family wealth doesn't just reveal character, it reveals truth about power, about values, about what we believe we owe each other. Our family's painful reckoning stripped away pretenses and forced us to see each other as we really are, not the roles we'd been assigned. I still keep Mom's journal in my bedside drawer, reading entries when I need her wisdom or courage. The last page contains a quote she'd carefully copied. "The greatest gift you can give your children is not protection from change, challenge, or difficulty, but the confidence that they can overcome anything with truth and integrity." That confidence sustains me now, as I continue to honor her legacy while building my own. Breaking cycles of control and secrecy requires daily courage, constant vigilance against falling into familiar patterns. Healing isn't a destination, but a practice one I recommit to each day in Mom's memory. What about you? Have you ever had to stand up for what's right against family pressure, or discovered something about a loved one that changed how you understood them? Share your experiences in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit that subscribe button and like this video so others facing similar family challenges might find it. Thank you for listening to my story. And remember, sometimes the greatest act of love is honoring someone's truth even when it's difficult. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other.
I, 29 male, have been dating Melissa, 27, for about 14 months. Met her through a buddy's barbecue. Hit it off over our mutual hatred of IPAs and love of old noir films. First 6 months were great. Really great. Then the trust issues started creeping in. It began with little comments. "Who's texting you?" when my phone buzzed during dinner. "Is that a girl from work?" when I mentioned a project meeting. "You were online at 2 a.m. when I couldn't sleep and scrolled Reddit. I tried reassurance, transparency, patience. Showed her my text when she asked. Introduced her to female co-workers at a company event. Even started announcing who I was texting like some kind of weird play-by-play announcer. Nothing helped. The jealousy just got worse. Last Thursday, we were at my place watching Netflix. My phone was on the coffee table, face down, habit from work meetings. It buzzed. I ignored it. We were watching her favorite show. Melissa, aren't you going to check that? Me, it can wait. This episode's almost over. Melissa, could be important. Me, if it's important, they'll call. She got quiet. That specific kind of quiet that meant a storm was brewing. 20 minutes later, credits rolling, she hit pause and turned to me. Melissa, I need your phone password. Me, what? What? Melissa, if you have nothing to hide, it shouldn't be a problem. Me, Mel, we've talked about this. I need some privacy. It's not about hiding things. Melissa, privacy is just another word for secrets. Honest people don't need privacy from their partners. The entitlement in her voice, like she was stating a universal truth rather than her controlling opinion. Me, that's not true, and you know it. I have work emails, private conversations with friends, banking apps. Melissa, so you are hiding something. Me, no, I'm maintaining healthy boundaries. She stood up, grabbed her purse. The theatrical performance had begun. Melissa, I'm going to make this really simple for you, Ryan. Give me your phone password right now, or we're done. I deserve to know what my boyfriend is doing. Every other guy would do this for their girlfriend. Me, no, they wouldn't. This is controlling behavior. Melissa, it's trust. If you loved me, you'd prove it. I looked at her standing there, hand on her hip, absolutely certain I'd cave. 14 months together, and she was willing to throw it away over a 4-digit code that represented my last boundary. Me? Okay. Melissa, smiling, thank God. I knew you'd. Me, we're done then. Her smile froze, then crumbled. Melissa, what? Me, you said give me my password or we're done. I choose done. Melissa, you're not serious. Me, dead serious. If you need to invade my privacy to trust me, then we don't have trust. Without trust, we don't have a relationship. She laughed. Actually laughed. Melissa, you're bluffing. You won't throw away what we have over something so stupid. Me, you're the one who made the ultimatum. I'm just accepting your terms. Melissa, Ryan, stop being dramatic and give me the password. Me, no. We're broken up. You should go. The next 10 minutes were a masterclass in manipulation tactics. She cycled through. Tears. How can you do this to me? Anger. You're such an asshole. Bargaining. Okay. Maybe I overreacted. Let's talk about this. Threats. You're going to regret this. Guilt. After everything I've done for you. I just kept repeating, you made your choice. Please leave. Finally, she stormed out, but not before delivering her closing argument. You're going to call me tomorrow begging to get back together. And when you do, the price goes up. Password and location sharing. Me, I won't be calling. Door slammed so hard my neighbor's dog started barking. I sat there for a minute, processing, then did what needed to be done. Grabbed my phone, blocked her number, blocked her on all social media. Clean break. No room for ambiguity or continued drama. Figured that was the end of it. I figured wrong. Update 1, 3 days later. So Melissa apparently spent the first day after our breakup waiting for my call. The call that never came because, blocked. According to mutual friends, more on that later, she went through the classic stages. Day 1, confidence. Told everyone I'd cave within 24 hours, and she was teaching me a lesson about respect. Day 2, confusion. Started asking people if they'd heard from me. Posted some cryptic Instagram stories about knowing your worth and real men step up. Day 3, panic. That's when she realized she was blocked everywhere. This is where it gets interesting. Unable to contact me directly, she started a campaign. First, she tried getting through via mutual friends. Tommy, mutual friend, call me Saturday morning. Tommy, dude, Melissa's freaking out. She says you blocked her. Me, yeah, we broke up. She made an ultimatum. I accepted it. Tommy, she's saying you overreacted to a simple request. Me, she demanded my phone password or we're done. I chose done. Tommy, oh, she left that part out. Me, shocking. Tommy, she want me to give you a message. Me don't. I'm not interested. Tommy, fair enough. But heads up, she's calling everyone. He wasn't kidding. Throughout Saturday, I got calls from her best friend Natalie, her sister Rebecca, 3 other mutual friends. My ex-roommate from 2 years ago, still don't know how she got his number. All with the same script. There's been a misunderstanding. She just wanted transparency. You're throwing away something special. My response was consistent. She made an ultimatum. I accepted it. We're done. But Melissa wasn't satisfied with phone campaigns. Oh no, she needed to escalate. Sunday morning, 8 a.m., my doorbell rings. I check the peephole. It's Rebecca, Melissa's sister, holding a box. I talk through the door. Me, what do you want, Rebecca? Rebecca, Melissa asked me to return your stuff. Me, leave it outside. Thanks. Rebecca, she wants her things too. Me, I'll box them up and leave them outside tomorrow. Text me when you're coming. Rebecca, she wants to get them herself. Me, no. You or someone else can pick them up. Rebecca, Ryan, come on. She just wants to talk. Me, we have nothing to talk about. Rebecca, she's sorry about the ultimatum. She didn't mean it. Me, yes, she did. And I meant my response. Rebecca, you're being really immature about this. Me, I'm respecting both our decisions. Goodbye, Rebecca. I didn't open the door. Heard her muttering something about stubborn assholes before leaving. Spent Sunday afternoon boxing up Melissa's stuff. Wasn't much. Some clothes, toiletries, a few books, the expensive coffee maker she insisted we needed, that only she used, some jewelry she left on my dresser. Filled 2 boxes. Done. Monday morning, I left them outside my door at 7 a.m. with a note. Everything's here. Please don't contact me again. Got a security camera notification at 9 a.m. Rebecca picking up the boxes, Melissa sitting in the car. Could see her staring at my door like she was willing me to appear. I didn't. Thought that was the end of it. Should have known better. Update 2, 1 week later. The entitlement escalation was spectacular. Tuesday, I get a call from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Me, hello. Voice, is this Ryan? Me, who's this? Voice, this is Dr. Patricia Kemp. I'm Melissa's therapist. I actually laughed. Me, her. Therapist? Are you serious? Dr. Kemp, Melissa is very distressed about your recent breakup. She feels you haven't given her a chance to explain. Me, stop right there. I don't know if you're really her therapist or if this is Melissa with a voice changer app. But either way, this is inappropriate. Don't call again. Hung up. Wednesday, things got weirder. I get an email at my work address from Melissa's mom, Diane. Subject line, please read important. The email was something, 3 paragraphs about how Melissa has trust issues from past relationships, how I triggered her abandonment fears, and how I should be the bigger person and fight for love. The kicker was the last line. Real men don't give up on their women over small misunderstandings. I didn't respond, but I did forward it to HR with a note. Personal matter, saving for documentation in case of escalation. Thursday was quiet. Should have been suspicious. Friday afternoon, I'm at work when reception calls. Receptionist, Ryan, there's a delivery for you at the front desk. I go down. It's a singing telegram. A singing telegram. In 2024, the poor kid in a tux starts singing some butchered version of Baby Come Back with customized lyrics about passwords and trust. My coworkers are watching. Some are filming. I'll let the kid finish. Not his fault. Tipped him $20 and took the car that came with it. I was wrong. You were right. Let's start over. My buddy Jerome from accounting was dying laughing. Bro, she sent you a singing telegram? That's next level. Me, next level crazy. But the real show was Saturday. I'm coming back from the gym around 10 a.m. As I approach my apartment building, I see Melissa's car parked outside. She's sitting on the hood, and she's not alone. There's Natalie, Rebecca, and 2 other girls I don't recognize. They're holding signs. I kid you not. Signs. Honk if you believe in second chances. Love means forgiveness. Ryan plus Melissa equals forever. Password protected, but heart unprotected. That last one didn't even make sense. Melissa spots me and jumps off the car. She's dressed up, full makeup, the dress I once said looked nice, holding a bouquet of grocery store flowers. Melissa, Ryan, please, just 5 minutes. I kept walking. Melissa, I had the girls come for moral support, to show you how much this means to me. Her whole crew started following me, signs bobbing. Natalie, Ryan, she's really sorry. Rebecca, she hasn't eaten in days. Melissa looked fine. Random girl number 1. You two are perfect together. Random girl number 2. She made a mistake. I reach my building entrance, turn around. Me, this is harassment. Leave now, or I call the cops. Melissa, you wouldn't. Me, try me. Melissa, but I love you. I just wanted to feel secure. Me, and I wanted privacy. We both made our choices. Yours was an ultimatum. Mine was to accept it. Now leave. Melissa, I take it back. I don't need your password. Me, too late. We're done. This circus proves I made the right choice. Melissa, you blocked me. How was I supposed to apologize? Me, you weren't. That was the point. I went inside. They stayed outside for another hour, according to my security app. Melissa tried the buzzer twice. Other residents complained. Eventually they left. Sunday brought a new tactic, the flying monkey's final assault. Got a call from my mom. Mom, Ryan, honey, a lovely young woman named Melissa called me. Said you two had a fight. My mom. She found my mom's number and called my mother. Me, Mom, we broke up. She's my ex. Please don't engage with her. Mom, she seemed very upset. Said something about passwords. Me, she demanded my phone password or we're done. I chose done. Mom, good for you. That's ridiculous. I'll block her number. I love my mom. But Melissa wasn't done. She called. My brother told him to pound sand his words. My best friend from college laughed and hung up. My uncle, who I haven't talked to in 2 years, was confused why I had a secretary calling him. The desperation was real. Update 3, 2 weeks later. Monday morning, I'm having coffee when I hear something at my door. Look through the peephole. Nothing. Open the door. There's an envelope on the ground. Inside, a 5-page handwritten letter. I'll spare you most of it, but highlights included a detailed analysis of her childhood trauma that made her need security, a list of all the things she did for me, including watch your boring movies, the noir films SHE claimed to love, a threat/promise that she'd wait forever for me to come to my senses, a PS saying she'd enrolled in therapy to work on her trust issues. I kept the letter documentation, but didn't respond. Tuesday through Thursday, peace. Bless peace. Friday night, 11 p.m., loud knocking at my door. Melissa's voice. Ryan, I know you're in there. Please. She sounded drunk. I didn't respond, but I did start recording on my phone. Melissa, I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry, I wanted to know you weren't cheating. Sue me for caring. Knocking getting louder. Melissa, you know what? Fine. I didn't even want your stupid password. I was testing you, and you failed. Yes, it was a test defense. Melissa, I have your Netflix login anyway. I know you've been watching our show without me. We've been watching Better Call Saul. I continued. Sue me. Melissa, open this door or I'll. Long pause. Melissa, I'll post those photos from Vegas. I almost laughed. The photos from Vegas were us at a completely normal pool party at a casino. Full swimsuits. Nothing scandalous. But she thought she had leverage. Neighbor's door opened. Neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, 70-year-old retired teacher. Young lady, it's 11 p.m. You're drunk and you're disturbing everyone. Leave, or I'm calling the police. Melissa, mind your own business, Grandma. Wrong move. Mrs. Patterson doesn't play. Mrs. Patterson, that's it. I'm calling 911. Melissa panicked and left, but not before one final shout. This isn't over, Ryan. Narrator, it was, in fact, over. Saturday morning, I went to the police station and filed a report about the harassment. The officer was sympathetic, but said unless she threatened violence or damaged property, it was hard to do anything beyond documentation. Officer, best advice? Keep documenting everything. If she continues, you can file for a restraining order. I thanked him and left, hoping I wouldn't need to escalate. Sunday, the final boss battle. I'm doing laundry in my building's basement when I hear footsteps. Turn around. It's Melissa. She'd waited until someone else opened the door and snuck in. But this wasn't the put-together Melissa from last week. Hair messy, eyes red, wearing sweats. She looked rough. Melissa, we need to talk. Me, no, we don't. You need to leave before I call the cops. Melissa, just tell me why. Why was your privacy more important than us? Me, it wasn't about privacy versus us. It was about you not trusting me and trying to control me. Melissa, I just wanted to feel safe. Me, by violating my boundaries? That's not how safety works. Melissa, other guys would have. Me, then date other guys. She started crying. Not the manipulative tears from before. Real, ugly crying. Melissa, I drove everyone away. My friends are sick of hearing about you. My family says I'm obsessed. My therapist says I have attachment issues. And you just don't care. Me, I cared. Past tense. You killed it with your ultimatum. Melissa, I didn't think you'd actually choose breaking up. Me, that's the problem. You thought you could manipulate me with threats. When I called your bluff, you couldn't handle it. Melissa, so that's it? 14 months just gone. Me, you ended at the moment you made that ultimatum. I just agreed with you. She stood there for a moment, then said something that actually surprised me. Melissa, you know what the stupid part is? I don't even know what I expected to find on your phone. I just wanted to know I could look. Me, and I wanted to know you'd trust me enough not to need to. She left without another word. I finished my laundry in peace. Final update, 1 month later. After the laundry room encounter, Melissa actually went quiet. No texts from random numbers, no showing up at my place, no singing telegrams, thank God. I started to think maybe she'd finally accepted reality. Then, 2 weeks ago, I get a LinkedIn notification. Melissa viewed my profile. Okay, creepy but harmless. Then another notification. She'd endorsed me for Microsoft Excel and team leadership. I don't even use Excel much. Weird flex, but whatever. Then she messaged me on LinkedIn. LinkedIn. Hi, Ryan. I wanted to reach out professionally to apologize for my unprofessional behavior during our personal relationship transition. I've been reflecting on my actions and realize I violated appropriate boundaries. I'm currently working with a therapist on my attachment and trust issues. I don't expect a response, but I wanted you to know I'm taking accountability. Best wishes in your future endeavors. She apologized to me like I was a business contact. Personal relationship transition. Future endeavors. Who talks like that? I didn't respond, but I did screenshot it because at this point, I had a whole folder documentation. Last week, I run into Tommy, mutual friend, at a bar. Tommy, hey man, heard about everything with Melissa. Wild stuff. Me, yeah, it's been a ride. Tommy, she's dating someone new, you know. Me, good for her. Tommy, met him on a dating app. She made him share his location on the first date. Me, of course she did. Tommy, he gave her all his passwords by week 2. Me, that'll end well. Tommy, she seems happy. Posts about him constantly. My perfect man this, trust and transparency that. Me, how long they've been together. Tommy, 3 weeks. I laughed. Actually laughed. Some people never learn. Tommy, she still asks about you sometimes. If you're dating anyone. Me, and Tommy, I tell her it's none of her business. Me, good man. Yesterday, the final chapter, hopefully. I'm at a coffee shop, working on my laptop, and walks Melissa with a guy, presumably the new boyfriend. He's younger, maybe 24, looks like he should be in a boy band. She sees me, freezes. He asks what's wrong. She whispers something. He looks at me, then back at her, then does something I didn't expect. He walks over. Him, you're Ryan? Me, yeah. Him, I'm Derek. I'm with Melissa now. Me, okay. Him, she says you were really controlling. Wouldn't let her have any access to your life. Me, is that what she said? Him, yeah. Said you were secretive and probably cheating. Me, did she mention she demanded my phone password and threatened to break up if I didn't give it? His face changed. Him, no. She said you refused to share anything with her. Me, I refused to give her my password after she ultimatumed me. That's different. Him, she said you were the one with trust issues. I pulled out my phone, showed him the documentation folder. Not to be petty, but the kid deserved to know what he was getting into. Me, singing telegrams, harassment, call my mother, showed up drunk at my door. All because I wouldn't give her my phone password. Derek looked back at Melissa, who was practically vibrating with anxiety. Derek, she has all my passwords. Said it was normal. Me, it's not. But that's your choice. Good luck, man. I packed up and left. As I was walking out, I heard Derek say to Melissa, "We need to talk." Don't know what happened after that. Don't care. The whole experience taught me a few things. When someone shows you who they are through ultimatums, believe them. Standing your ground isn't mean, it's necessary. The right to privacy doesn't end when a relationship begins. If someone needs to inspect your phone to trust you, they never will. Blocking someone immediately after a breakup isn't immature, it's self-preservation. As for me, I'm good. Started dating someone new last week. Haven't mentioned the Melissa saga yet. When I do, it'll be interesting to see her reaction. She did ask to use my phone yesterday to call hers. She'd misplaced it. I handed it over without hesitation. Her, "You not worried I'll snoop?" Me, "No. If you did, we'd be done, and you'd be telling on yourself." Her, "Fair enough." She called her phone, found it in her car, handed mine back. No drama. No trust issues. Just normal. It's nice. Oh, and for anyone wondering, yes, I still have the same password. No, Melissa never knew it. And no, I'm not sharing it here either. Privacy isn't about having something to hide. It's about having something that's yours. And that's worth more than any relationship built on ultimatums. Peace out, Reddit. Hope you never need this kind of documentation folder.